Rahu back my saw, and welcome to another live reading. Our scroll for today will be Paa Taraq. The planet Earth is woman. All right. So before we get started, we're just going to each acknowledge that X factor within all of us. All right, because us all sitting here together today, we all have something in common. We all have our X chromosome. All right. So whether that X chromosome is seen or hidden, we all have that spark of life, all right, emanating through all of us. All right, why is that? Because the planet Earth is woman. As we acknowledge powers and powers in powers, all right, the all in all, and all the various components working together for the greater collective, all right, and life itself. So we're going to acknowledge the complete union breath, all right, called the Samai breath. So just take a moment and take a deep breath for yourselves and each other, all right? So you're going to acknowledge first and foremost your anatomy, all right, how you're put together. And are you using your anatomy as nature designed you, all right? Most of us misuse our bodies, our instruments, all right? So we're going to put ourselves in the image of natural nature. So feel the support, love, and healing from Paa Nadaru. Paa Nadaru is the very forces of natural nature. All right, the very forces that permeates all around us and inside of us. All right, the very elements putting us together. So take a moment and acknowledge your diaphragm. Your diaphragm is a big muscle. All right, it's part of your respiratory system, but it does so much more. It also stimulates your organs. So when you take a deep breath in, your stomach goes outward. All right. So now listen to people, different people in the world, different people through different parts of the world. And you're going to notice that Africans tend to have a better resound because they speak a little more deeply connected to the root, but not just deep, but also out and upward. So we're using all parts of our lungs, all right, to pull that soul back into our bodies. So we can vibrate as nature vibrates. And then we're tapping in for our soul to the oversoul, all right, which permeates through all life, all right? So we feel connection, all right? So that's why we have such a powerful culture of call and response. And that's actually what your body does. That's what nature does. For every action, there's a reaction, all right? So that's what the rhythm comes back into. So let's charge ourselves again through the breath. So you take a deep breath in, your stomach goes out because that's your diaphragm descending downward. And as it descends downward, it acts like a vacuum, automatically pulling air into lungs to expand it outward. And as you keep inhaling, the breath actually moves up. So now you're complete union with all parts of yourself as far as your lungs go, all right? So now you're using your lungs to its full capacity. Now all parts of your body is more aware, all right? And then you're going to make that connection to your emotional body. What are you feeling, all right? And where does it show up on your body? And where are your thoughts? And feel all of that link. And that's why we say that the breath, right, is the gateway between our etheric and our physical reality. It all comes together right here in the now. So when you breathe mindfully, you realize that breathing itself is a prayer, all right? And existing is a prayer in within itself, all right? So what are you praying on, all right? Are you praying for the bigger collective, or is it based on your ego and survival, all right? So feel that love, support, and healing of the collective pulling you back into the source, all right, through your breath. And you feel yourself coming complete union with yourself, which allows you to come into complete union with all around you, all right? And now you accept your brothers and sisters, all right, because you've accepted yourself in its many dimensions, all right? So that's the allness, the oneness from which we all permeate. And as Africans, all right, we have that natural compassion for life itself, all right? And that's what we call the compassion, all right? So we're going to acknowledge Abdul Kalau Taprorat Wu Fakor Bisamos Papaut, which means begin all prayers and thinking by using the all expanding. You hear few key words, the all expanding, using and prayer, all right? So breathing yourself is a prayer, all right? Love is an action, and it's what you're doing, all right? So we're going to become more active in parts. We all play our parts. And we become useful, all right? So you remember your purpose, all right? And power, so your nose itself, you can think of as using your thing of all expanding. And breathe in that love, support, healing, acceptance from Panadaru. And breathe that same healing, love, support, healing, Ashuk, acceptance for your fellow brothers and sisters. All right, the proper way to breathe. Now you have a full awareness, all right, of all that ever was and all that ever will be, all happening right here, right now through your breath, through your gateway. That's Ashuk, all right. Rawuk is the breath of life, that spark of life. That's the soul, the oversoul, from which we all tap into. That breath, all right? Open the door towards him, all right? And it's about remembering who you are, because him and who is interchangeable. Apta pa babab la ye hu, all right? Because despite what you had to become, you remember who you are and you hold on to that link, hold on to that rope, all right? Apta Paa Taraq la Hereafter Yaanun. Apta Baabaa Yaanun. Apta Paa Taraq la Hereafter Yaanun. Apta Baabaa Yaanun. Ashuk Moisar. Baror, baror, baror. Nabab Nadar Mugdad. Na Huts Mugdad bedid Patah. Na Huts Muglas bedid Yaanun. Holy, holy, holy. Master Overseer Almighty. Holy as in the holy seed. All existing gases. Nine mind reasoning, the might of all existing right here and now. No God except Patah, the thought of opening. As we open our breath, we open our hearts, we open our minds, our nine mind reasoning, all right? And we have a thing called a mikta, which links to our third eye jewel. Open your spiritual eye, all right? That spiritual eye, that's all connected, all right? As we grow past these illusions of separation and we become a mukta. Mukta is a tahite, or one who is open, all right? So we go back to our original source as the tahites, because there's no God except Patah, the one who is of Patah. And no savior except Yaanun, the very soul of the people, because you cannot lie to yourself. And I affirm that I am in the divine love of the all expanding, and all divine love is in me. And as I affirm that about myself, that means that I am automatically affirming that about you, my beloved Moisar Ashuk. Patah. Anuki Jawef Pa Ashuk and Pa Pahut. Wukala Ashuk Kawun Jawef Niya. Anuki Kasamu and Pa Pahut. Wu Pa Pahut Kawun Kasamu and Niya. Anuki Wahu Ame Pa Pahut. Wu Pa Pahut Kawun Wahu Ame Niya. Nakuk Kado Naja Ame Kasam Em Pa Pahut. Wu Kabub Ame Mushkas Nakuk Kado Kawan Kala Pafef Nakuk Ayo Jawef Pa Pahut. Ame wase ame ayani kawun lake bako Jawef Pa Pahut. Anuki Abed Biye Nafashni Pa Pahut Kawun Anuki Pa Pahut Kado Nakuk Kado Pa Pahut Amol Nakuk Amol. The all is I am. The all can I can. The all does I do. Why? Because they are me and I am them. The very forces of natural nature that permeates all around us and inside of us, the very elements from which we come, from our ancestors and the very elements of life. They are me and I am them. And we thank you for our master teacher for incarnating, all right, for the purpose of renewing our story as a people, sent to us, from the very sources of natural nature. And we accept this healing. And we accept that this book is the truth and the way. Pasawabu Paa Taraq. Panen Misfa Kawun. Pasawabu Paa Taraq. Ze Kawuna Nazulala He Amskun. Maleba Spatwu Masa'a. Ama Hadea Mumuda Ma'u. Mane Musafuku. Unataru. Arjulaye Nafashuku. Alfukshane Kawunku. Pasawabu Paa Taraq. Hadeamu Padama. Nahun Samuansku. Lahe Panen Daman Bushafe. Nahun Samuansku. Lahe Tem Nasoinu. Nahun Samuansku. Lahe Ashakuma. Anskuma Der Musafunu. Nahuna Der Mukradku. Nahun Salug Nasakuma. Nahun Salug Nasakuma. Ansanun Kahena Daru. Ansanun Musafunu. Nahuna Der Muspatu. Anu Atun. Atun. Amun. We are Sabians, And Tawakum to all of us who's doing our very best to transform into the very best versions of yourselves and of ourselves in our one collective body. Tawakum to Nadaru, Wu-Mundaru, and our Mudar, Baabaa Yaanun, in the personage of His Excellency, Dr. Malachi York Okran, Zeti, living and breathing, flesh and blood like us, an example of all that we can be. And Tawakum to our Muslafu for supporting us thus far, because we're still here. And our scroll for today will be The Planet Earth is Woman. All right. So feel free to unmute and participate. A little bit about the author. Pa Munzal Nadar Amanube Re Patah Zeti Shil Pa Hanutu, known to us as His Excellency Malachi York Okran. Shil Pa Hanutu means of the Amun priesthood. All right. So now it's time to secrete what has been hidden. All right. It's time to secrete the secrets from the Amun priesthood, which deals with the hidden. All right. Because it's our time. All right. Known to us as Malachi York Okran. Kobina means born on Tuesday. In Takoradi, Ghana, West Africa. Still living. And you'll notice that one of Baaba's hats, one of his many hats, is Patah, all right? Means the opener, all right? And to spark, that means Baaba's job is to spark that divinity in you, all right? So that's why one of his hats is the transmitter. So when you hear the word transmit, just think of your neurotransmitters, all right? And now you have that awareness, that consciousness being turned on back into your body. As one cell sparks the other cell until the body has a complete awareness. And now we're fully awakened, all right? So that's the purpose of that seat of transmitter, all right? So your job is to respond, all right? So let's read together, Moisar. The revelations to the Nuwapians, Paa Taraq, the way. The planet Earth is woman. 1. Lekum, my beloved Nuwapians. This concerns mortals' conception and the human beast conception in olden times during the struggle on Patah, the planet Earth. 2. Once there was a human beast, a grafted devil, mortal beast, disease and sick, spotted and covered with fur all over, like his breeders, Lakianu, that's the Lakans, or Homo canines, like the dog, called Kalabu and Caleb Hebrew, Strong's number 3611, meaning to yield or else to attack, dog. 3. In Arabic, on page 119 of the Elias Arabic English Dictionary, you will see karbun or kalab for dog. 4. Many even were born not attached to their mother by an umbilical cord, and with tails, while others were born tailless. 5. Many walked on all fours and ate raw flesh of animals and mortals, being the offspring of Rafau, that's giants, and Karabu, cherubim, or Igigi. The Igigi are the 200 of the 300 were cast down to Taha, earth, for their rape of human women. 6. The beast of the fields, they roamed and killed, wicked in their very nature. 7. And in those days, many mortal women called feminine were tempted by the strength and wildness of this homo canine, homo simian, full of muscles and muscular bodies. 8. They were called masculine, and Panatharu looked on at these interactions sexually between the feminine and the masculine. All right, let's just pause right there. All right, so Baabaa is emphasizing the word feminine and masculine. So feminine, he puts femi and then nine. All right, and nine we know is interchangeable with a circle. All right, so 9 and circle is interchangeable. And then Baabaa emphasizes masculine as masculine. All right, so whenever you're dealing with a line, you're dealing with something that's finite. When you're dealing with a circle, you're dealing with infinite. So when you're dealing with a line, there's a beginning point and an end point. All right. So you have the feminine and the masculine. All right. 9. And they birthed a kind of man, mankind, man's kind, or man's kin. 10. They roamed the caves, being called cavemen, the hillsides with goats, hillbillies, and many climbed up into trees at night, homo simian. 11. They could not speak until 6,000 years ago. 12. Dwelling in the forest and up in the mountains. 13. Therefore, Panadaru were wrathful against the mortal woman who laid with the beast men. 14. She lost her divine powers and insights because hers was the responsibility to reject the human beast with and without. 15. That she might bring forth children of black skin, clean and unspotted, with coiled wabab hair as theirs, unlike the beast of the earth's farad fur. 16. Her offspring was to be able to walk in the rays of the sun without fear. 17. Her offspring was to be able to see in the shadow hours when the rays of the sun are elsewhere. 18. The children of Panadaru, Pakaradu, Afaf Panadaru were given speech 54,000 years ago. So the children of Panadaru, so you have the other children, they only start to speak 6,000 years, the beastmen. But the children of Panadaru spoke 54,000 years ago. All right, 2 different species. All right, so 19. Instead, she mixed with the beast, and their children could not walk in the rays of the sun for fear of death by it. A living dead carcass, dead flesh. 20. And because of the mixture by Nin Kar Sak or Mother Ninti. 21. Her new breed tried to speak, yet had a lisp, could not articulate words or pronounce words, which resulted in dialects of the original language, Nuwapic. Let's stop there for a moment. All right. So by the very structure of various people, and even within our own tribe, you know, when our features change and we start to mix in with other people, some people, they don't have the same structure face, the same structure tongue, and some people physiologically just cannot speak the same way. All right. Some people, like for example, if you they have a lisp because of whatever defect. All right. The tongue, you know, being in a different alignment, different muscles that might be lacking. All right. So a lot of us downgraded our DNA. So that also affected how we spoke And this was the birth of new dialects, all right, and the loss of certain dimensions. So when you think of that, you can have a loss of dimension of color, for example. So you can see the idea of certain colors, but there's some people who see a wider spectrum of color. Same thing happens with speech, all right? So some people physiologically just cannot speak the same way that others can, all right? So so now you hear how the birth of language, all right, or the differentiation when we started to break down into dialects, all right. So I think that's very interesting. And I was smiling because when I was a child, I told Bob about the dream, and it did affect, like, something happened to my speech in the dream, and it did involve dogs, and I didn't understand. But it's like as I'm reading, you know, it's probably a flashback that I was having, all right. And I just couldn't communicate, because what happened is that I crashed. This was my dream. I was 3 years old. I still remember the dream. I was 3. I was on a craft and it crashed into the planet Earth. And when it crashed, I wandered through a forest. And when I wandered through a forest, these dogs attacked me. It was dogs. They attacked me and they devoured my chest. All right. So then when I went to speak, where I crashed, the beings that I crashed from, because I was running away from these beasts, and I was separated. And then when I crashed, I got attacked, but I didn't die. And then the beings that was on the craft with me, they found me, and we found each other. And then they tried to ask me what happened, and I tried to talk to them, and they couldn't understand me. They looked so confused, and I couldn't talk because my structure was ruined. All right. And then I just woke up. So I don't know if I ever got back on or whatever happened. And it's interesting because it was dogs. So it makes me see how we're talking about the Homo canine, the Homo simian, and also in other scrolls, the Homo porcine, how we got into the DNA of these grafted creatures and how we mixed in with them. And now we see that our dialects were interfered, all right? So now we're, by speaking correctly, we're actually healing that, our very structures, physical structures, all right? Which our physical structures come from our genetic structures. So you see the connection, all right? So, so now listen to what happened to us. All right. So feel free, anybody could participate. All right, so 21. Her new breed tried to speak, yet had a lisp, could not articulate words or pronounce words, which resulted in dialects of the original language, Nuwapic. 22. It became tongues, cleft tongues, and split tongues. So each group mispronounced words, which began from Nuwapic to Hebrew, Aramic, Amharic, and on and on. 23. They can't see well in daylight hours, for their eyes are void. Their eyes are void of true dark colors of the iris to attract the energy of the sun as solar panels. 24. Their skin is transparent and repels the rays of the sun's energy. It dries, it peels, and it rots. 25. They as mukfashu, that's bat persons or vampires, or wamapu, vampire, wamapu, all right? Walk in the shadows. Pa karadu afaf tananu, the children of draconians, all right? We also have another scroll called Shadow Nuwapians. It's talked about in different shadow people, the shadow people, all right? So much of us has genetic, some of us have genetic agreements, all right, with these forces that has gotten into our blood. And this actually caused genetic agreements to do the bidding of these vampire forces, all right? So by our natural nature, we should be able to sing, dance, be in tune with natural nature, be inside of the sun, and it not worry about harm for the sun. All right, our skin should be acting in perfection. All right, but a lot of us have picked up different diseases. All right, so that's what we're healing from. All right, so a lot of us have inherited both natures at this time. All right, this is what we're healing from. So we have the two extremes coming together. And as Baabaa explained, most people are somewhere in the middle. All right. So that's why we have a scroll called The Decision, because it's decision time. So each decision is pulling different aspects of your genetics further to the surface. All right. So it's the time of decision time. Our fate. We're sealing our fate with every decision. All right. So let's get back to this the different natures. All right. So 23, they can't see well in daylight hours, for their eyes are void of true dark colors of the iris to attract the energy of the sun as solar panels. Your eyes is an extension of your nervous system. All right. And it's part of your solar panels. And when you actually, your solar panels come in contact with the world around you, it actually sends signals as part of your nervous system for your body to secrete different hormones at different times. All right. So that's why dark eyes, for example, people with dark eyes, they do a lot better with secreting hormones such as melatonin and serotonin. All right. So you don't need coffee. All right. Your body's doing this naturally. All right. When you're healthy. All right. A lot of us are not healthy anymore. We have to clean ourselves up. So your eyes are solar panels. There's a reason for it being dark. All right. 24, their skin is transparent and repels the rays of the sun's energy. It dries, peels, and rots. They as 25, they as mukfashu, that person's vampires, wamapu, vampires, walk in the shadows. Paa Taraq afaf tananu, the children of draconians, dragonians. 26, and because of this wickedness that was done, there are among you those who are the children of the beast, and they are a different kind of sayai, man. All right. So mixed within us, there's some of us who as Baabaa says, because of this wickedness done, where we mixed, there's some amongst of us who are actually children of the beast. All right. 27, they are human beings and those being humans. All right. Human beings and those being humans. 28, they are cursed and punished with this disease of leprosy and have mixed their DNA with all other Salalu races on the planet Earth. Put evil in all Salalu races, evil genes. 29, even black devils, and they will act according to their inner natures, regardless of what they look like on the outside. 30, inside of them, the beast and deity strive to decide whether they shall take their ancestors, the Lawi Tananu, known as the Draconians, place among Efarat, demons that live in both the physical world and the spiritual world. 31, many struggle daily with the beast inside, their days being encompassed with strife and turmoil, sickness and disease. 32, easily tempted to do wickedness, hard to lead to the right way, wu-Nuwap. All right. Many of us genetically, Baabaa explained, this is a genetic doctrine, many of us genetically cannot grasp this doctrine. Our genetics won't allow. There's a lot of blocks, all right? Some of us, we struggle, you know. If we're honest, Some things are easy, all right? Easier for that brother or harder for that brother. Easier for you, harder for you. There's various things. There's various wars in the genes that we're fighting. It's actually in a war, all right? So we're working on our willpower. That's why Baabaa gives us a breath called the nerve revitalizing breath, because the nervous system is the seat of willpower. That's your seat of will, because your nervous system is responsible for your perceptive mind, how you perceive the world. As you heal your nervous system, you actually strengthen your willpower. All right. So it would be easier. So that's why we have all these rituals, because there's been so much done to us of discipline. All right. And you discipline that DNA and you cause those changes. All right. So, so 32. All right. So 31, let's go back. 31. Many struggle daily with the beast inside, their days being encompassed with strife and turmoil, sickness and disease. 32. Easily tempted to do wickedness, hard to lead to the right way. wu-Nuwap. 33. Most don't know why they so easily accept spookism, beliefs, lies over truth and facts, blind faith, and seeing fate. Blind faith or seeing fate. 34. Many have no ba soul, only ka spirits, as kakasu, Caucasians. All right. So this scroll is dispelling the illusion that many of us, just because somebody has brown skin or melanin, not all of us has inherited that soul. All right. So that's why it's easy for some of us. We just don't have that connection, that conviction, that inner integrity. All right. A lot of us fall for spookism very easily. All right. And it's hard, despite having the facts in front of us, to conform ourselves to the facts. All right. Because a lot of us really don't have a soul anymore. Some of us do. Some of us are somewhere half soul. Some of us have more of it. Some of us don't have the soul anymore, according to this scroll. Yes, I see somebody unmuted.
Rahuba Muisa.
Rahubat Zamal Imana. Rahubat.
Yeah, Rahuba. Is there a way to know that we don't have soul, even being blacks and having melanin? Is it a way? Is there a way I can feel or I can see the way I'm doing things to know I don't have soul or no?
Right.
Are there
Well,
some signs to make understand to one that he doesn't have soul?
mhm.
Yeah.
So we're having illustrations of different ways of someone having soul or not. So, for example, let's just see. Uh, Many struggle daily with the beast inside. Their days are encompassed with strife and turmoil, sickness and disease. 32. Easily tempted to do wickedness, hard to lead to the right way. wu-Nuwap. All right. So one of the definitions of wu-Nuwap means to replace. And a lot of times, like most of us, if we're honest with ourselves, and we were involved in devilishment in some shape or form, because um what was normalized to us, a lot of times we didn't necessarily know, but what was normalized in the societies we lived in was a lot of recreation. All right. So going against what was natural, or going against our best interests. Um, but as you get the facts, a lot of times you get to reform yourself, because a lot of times, let's just say you were doing something because it's been taught to you, and then somebody shows you a better way to do it. A lot of times when you know that you have that soul, is you're usually grateful for something that you like. I'm so grateful for this new information. Now I could do better. And then
Yeah.
sometimes for some other people, when they get the correction, they get resentful. All right. Because they don't really have an interest in changing. So they will resent that fact, you know. Um,
Yes.
so I noticed that a lot. So it's hard for people without a soul to really grasp wu-Nuwap, where a lot of us with the soul, it's like this is the answers. Even when we see things we like and when we see things we don't like, it's still a gratitude for the ability and for the opportunity to heal. All right. So
Yes.
so that's one way. That's one way to test. There's some people you can't tell them anything. You only could praise them. All right. So some other people you could tell them and they're like, I gotta tell you something. And because of compassion, a lot of times they want to hear and be the ability to consider the bigger picture, that's part of the soul as well. All right.
Yes. Mhm.
So
I can say, I will say so. If we are meeting here around this topic, around Wapians, around Wu-sabat, it means most of us we have a soul.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would say that a lot of us, but the thing is, we also have to not be deceived that everybody is not attracted to Wu-sabat for the same reason. For
Uh,
example, I'll give you the example. Somebody may study psychology because they want to heal from some certain psychological damages. So I want to say,
mm,
I think this way. Let me find out the way the brain is put together so I could correct these. Then you'll have somebody else who says, let me see how the mind works so I could exploit it more. You
yeah,
see what I'm saying?
I see.
So if I understand psychology, I can manipulate people better. So you have different natures that might be attracted to the reason reading these scrolls. Because I do have some other people that I noticed that they read the scrolls, and then I can recognize that's why this group actually started. Because there was people that would secretly be reading Bible scrolls. And I mean, you could sound like an amazing person, a neurobiologist, a neuroscientist. You There's so much information that scientists are just now catching up with. And for some people, they set themselves up to monetize and make money off of it and exploit people. And they hurt a lot of people. And that has happened as well. So, um, you have different natures. And that's what Bob says that so many different people are attracted, So it's about us all taking that introspection and making that analysis, well, who am I? You know, and I feel like Wu-sabat helps us to see our nature a lot easier for the better and the worse. So, and it's all there.
Yeah, as we saw, those who betrayed Baba, our master teacher, they were among us, among Wusaba, among Nwapians. So, can we say that we can't trust anyone, even among our community?
Um, I remember some update Baba gave about trust, and I would say for this, like, the fact of like, I remember him saying first, respect is earned, trust is earned, things like that. So it's not about trust or mistrust. It's about applying facts. So if we all were really into seeing things for what it is, we could all adjust, you know. And that's why like this platform is open to everybody. Anybody could come and join. I put it for everybody because um, I don't concern myself so much who I could trust or not trust. I concern myself of those who want to heal and that we are, if we're being honest with ourselves, we're all healing from something, and giving space, the people the space and grace to correct their stories or not correct their stories, and that's a decision for each person at this time. So we're all being called to either step up or get left behind. And it's like, when you're focused on the journey and you're focused on the truth, no matter who or what or where, uh, that it's like, it reminds me of like this saying that somebody says that the bird is not about the bird trusting the branch. the bird trusts its own wings, you know. So when you have the facts, you're not at the mercy of like, oh, who is this person? Is they're a devil? Are they not a devil? It's like you respect. It starts with yourself first, you know, and it's like you trust your wings, you know, and Wu-sabat allows us to spread our wings. So that's how I kind of take it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Tauta Zamata.
yeah. So I would tap for uh your train of thought, you know. Anybody else have anything to say before we continue reading? And that's where I feel like the compassion comes for each other, because a lot of times we're judging others for what we do in a different way. And if I'm not responsible for myself, um, you know, there's things I'm struggling with as well. You know, I'm still living, so my story's not finished being told. You know, so it's like I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea, and then it's for somebody to define my story. You know, at the end of the day, in the Bridge to Salvation, it says that, like for example, the Caucasian has already been judged. But as far as us, that we're all intermingled, we're still intermingled together, and we won't be separated until our day of judgment. And we each will judge ourselves. So it's like, Baba said to remember. Baba said to remember that when he met each and every one of us, that we were all a wannabe, you know. So when we meet each other, and we see less than favorable characteristics, well, we weren't really met in our best state either. So it's like giving people the space to heal their story. And that's what we're all being called to do. And if you can do it, great, you know? So that's something that, for us to be mindful that when we have the compassion for ourselves, it leaves room, you know, for other people's stories, things we like about others and things we don't like. And let it play out and let people heal. And it's okay, you know? So let's continue reading. So 33. Most don't know why they so easily accept spookism, beliefs, lies over truth and facts, blind faith, or seeing fate. 34. Many have no soul, no Ba soul, and only Ka spirit, as Kakasu, Caucasians. 35. They must be reborn or born again, renewed, or they will fade with the beast. 36. So the woman's mitochondria DNA brings forth children with suffering because they are frail in soul. Their sexual mate rules them. 37. They lost their divinity as mother deity. All right. So now what Baba's showing is linking back to our mothers. All right. So our souls actually being pulled into our mothers. All right. So now it has something to do. We must be born again. All right. A lot of us on this planet, because of this abuse that has happened, the women are frail. All right. They're ruled by sex and their mates. So they're sleeping deities. And our children don't have respect or trust for us as women on this planet. So it's time we heal ourselves so we can heal the mitochondrial DNA and we can restore that divinity and that soul connection back into our race. All right. So a lot of us, our first heartbreak is really from our mothers. All right. A lot of children are born already dim in their eyes. So we have to restore our women, heal our women. All right. So let's read that again. All right. So 34. Many have no Ba soul, only Ka spirit, as Kakasu, Caucasoids. 35. They must be reborn or born again, renewed, or they will fade with the beast. 36. So the women's mitochondrial DNA brings forth children with suffering, and because they are frail in soul, their sexual mate rules them. 37. They lost their divinity as mother deity. 38. Males are conceived in the raham, womb of females. 39. She brings him forth to life. 40. Therefore, when Pa Nagaru raised Nagaru Negroids up above all other Salalu races, and from Bahamu or Behemoth, Hebrew Strong's number 984, could not speak. 41. He was mute and could only howl. 42. The beast man, whose time has come to go, they, the Kakasu Caucasoids, will be removed from Kawataha, planet Earth. 43. Nagaru Negroids were born of Pa Nadaru, their hair, and endowed you with immortal soul, 9 ether, unlike Pa Bahamu, the human beast. All right. So now think about on verse 8, I think. Verse 8. Remember, Baba stressed the word feminine, masculine. All right. So a lot of them were born through rape. All right. A lot of them were born through gravitation. No respect, no connection. Baba talked about the disconnect of the umbilical cord. All right. Disconnect from their mothers. All right. Natural nature makes us connect right into the mother, which she grows the oversoul. All right. So a lot of us are coming in with that beast like disconnect. All right. From our mother deity. She must be restored. All right. It's because you hear the word feminine. All right. So 9 ether, all right, is going to come through the souls of our mother. All right. So Nagaru Negroids were born of Pa Nadaru, their hair, and endowed you with immortal soul, 9 ether, unlike Pa Bahamu, the human beast. 44. You were given speech 54,000 years ago in Afafreeka, Africa. 45. And lead you and only you, to the portals of this realm. All right. So you hear the importance of speech. And then you see what happened to our children when we started mixing. We lost the power of speech because it gave birth to dialects where our actual form distorted the language. All right. So now we see that the African, the Afafreika, were the only ones given the portals. All right. And Bob explains that right after he explains speech. All right. So you were given 54,000 years ago in Afafreika, Africa, 45, and lead you and only you to the portals of this realm, 46. And Pa Nadaru made guardians of the gateways to be born, neuter gender, 47. To know and keep the way to the portals, Pa Bawab, Dawam, the gateway vortex, or Babilu in Sumerian, which means the door to Nanar, their god, as in Babel. This doorway is now the southeast gates. Right? They have all the monotheistic religions facing the east when they pray, not knowing they have redirected their energy to a demon. 48. The truth is the entrances of the gateway have shifted with the reshifting of the 23-degree axis of the planets. 49. So what was once east gate has now shifted the position to the southeast gates. 50. This southeast gates is now those who have passed from this life will be able to pass back to this world or physical realm. those including disembodied spirits. 51. These specters or demons are waiting to pass back into this world through this gate for their own purposes and can torture the spirit passing on who have not made that connection with their Salafu ancestors, for then they are without guidance. All right. So now we're hearing why are we so prone, some of us, many of us, are prone to be tempted into doing the wrong thing, easily deceived. All right. Some of us, you can just trick us very easily. Right. We fall for lies. Susceptible to spookism. All right. Some of us are susceptible to spookism. Some people, they ask questions naturally, it's in their DNA because they have a certain inner voice that's guiding them. So now you're hearing that many are not connected to their Salafu ancestors. They have broke that link. All right. So they no longer have that guiding wisdom. All right. From their ancestors or protection. Because a lot of times when you have that protection, you have that gut feeling. Sometimes you can walk into a place and you feel something's not right. I'm out of here. All right. Or you can sense. All right. So those higher senses, your intuition, your psychometry, your clairvoyance, your telepathy. All right. That's all linked to that connection. All right. To the higher voices. All right. So a lot of times you could just look at somebody and you guys have a whole dialogue. Some of us have experienced that where you both have a whole conversation and it's like, oh my God, did you see that? You guys didn't say anything. Let's get out of here. And you both are looking at the same thing. Y'all don't even have to look. Y'all had a whole conversation. All right. That's that spiritual link. All right. That's that soul link. And I learned more about that because I was looking at a psychopath. I was looking at a psychopath, and he was talking about how their ability to feel is a lot lower. Their emotional link is a lot lower. That's why they don't have those divine emotions as much as, let's just say, a normal person. You have a psychopath, a normal person. Then you have somebody with a lot of soul, all right? And that's compassion. So he said that he doesn't, like, when somebody talks about the vibe, he doesn't know what that is. So he just goes by physical cues. So he reads the room and he goes by the cues, not the feeling. All right. So that's an example. So you see what Bob is telling you, what we have to be strengthened. So let's go back. So 51. These specters or demons are waiting to pass back into this world through this gate for their own purposes and can torture the spirit passing on who have not made that connection with their Salafu ancestors, for then they are without guidance. 52. The spirit beings must have made contact with their Salafu ancestors while here on Taha earth, because it is they who will guide you as you pass through the gate after you made your transition from this world to the next. 53. They will protect you and fight for you. 54. However, what was the northeast gate or our exist has also shifted. I think it says exit. I think it's supposed to say exit. All right. So however, what was the northeast gate or our exit has also shifted. 55. So it is very important to connect with your family, and we must have everything and everyone in place before these gateways are reopened. All right. So as everything shifts, that's why it goes back to tapping back into your natural circadian rhythm. All right. So now Baabaa talked about our perfect design. Because when the planet shifts, if you're in tune, your genetics naturally shift. And you're always in alignment. You're always in the rhythm. All right. Because this is not something you can memorize because things are constantly changing. So what happened is that these demons, they might be still aligned to something that is off course now because Baabaa explained that there was a shift. All right. And even with the Baabaa talked about that also with the zodiac. All right. So the reality is that those who are not connected, they really don't know what day and time it is. All right. So this is something that you can't fake. You can't lie. All right. It's not something that you can just watch what somebody else does and then repeat. It's something that you have to be in tune with. So Baabaa this is our time right now to clean up our story and reattune and reconnect. All right. Before those gates open again. All right. And these are the healings, anything that's holding us back. All right. And putting us on the wrong timeline. So we have to get back onto our own timeline, which is constantly shifting. It has shifted, but the one constant in nature is change. And that's one reason Baabaa said that they can't trap him. All right. Because you can't put Baabaa into a box. All right. Because Baabaa exists with the circle. And one thing about the circle is constantly changing. All right. And the only one who knows the secrets of that circle is the creator of that circle. And for us as the original beings, all right, as an extension, that we're always in tune. But once we break that link, all right, then we lose track. All right. So we have to get back into that divine nature again. All right. So 56. The gatekeepers, also referred to as Mushnastatu. That's hermaphrodites, and Mushnashu, hermaphrodites. 57. The original unison beings who vibrate twice as powerful as non-neuter gender, male and female, or XX and XY, 2 XYX and YXY, the deities. All right. So we have the 4 gatekeepers. All right. So there's going to be 4. Baabaa explains himself. So now you're seeing the genetic code of each one. So an XX, a XY, a XYX, and a YXY deity. All right. 58. This is what females as women should not forget. She is unlike all other living creatures and the trustees of a divine mission in her very physical body as the monthly shapeshifter. All right. So based on the scroll we read last week, we know the power of our mothers. All right. Our very masculine nature, as Baabaa explained, comes from our mothers. All right. And so much harm and trauma has been done to the mothers. And in turn, it has impacted the way we feel about ourselves, the way we feel about each other. All right. And our very hormonal makeup. And things are off. All right. So we have to have compassion for our mothers, ourselves, life itself. All right. And the women, it's time for us to take our divinity back because Baabaa said we have lost our divinity. All right. So now we know exactly what we're protecting. All right. So what has been entrusted. So this is what females as women should not forget. She is unlike all other living creatures and the trustees of a divine mission in her very physical body as the monthly shapeshifter. 59. For a woman not only gives life to a mortal being, she also bears a spark of divinity in her to Taha earth. And there can be no greater responsibility. All right. Some of us are being born without that spark. All right. So it's a great responsibility. All right. to give birth to whole beings. All right. The mother wound is very, very deep on this planet, and we all have it to some extent. All right. 60. Many unknowingly gave up this divine right by mixing their bodily fluids with children of the beast in black skin. All right. Let's repeat that again. Children of the beast in black skin. All right. So not just because somebody has melanin doesn't necessarily make them divine. All right. A lot of us unknowingly, we gave up our divine right by mixing in with the wrong people. All right. In black skin. 61. They slept and exchanged their fluids, and in doing so, they lost their virginity and divinity. 62. Then became used, going from man to man and male to male, and even with man's kind. 63. So what can we do about it? All right. We're going to see. 63. They must be cleaned inside out and outside in. 64. In order to regain their divinity and powers. 65. The eye that oversees earthly things is ever watchful, and those who did not know better or best. All right. As Baabaa explained, in the Lowest of Life, for example, the first 12 feminine of the sacred order of the felines, Baabaa explains that none of the first 12 would be perfect because a lot of us would have learned, all right, through the school of hard nights. For example, I learned about Wu-sabat as a grown woman, after the facts of many things. But their job is to usher in the next generation of perfect Wu-sabat, all right, of perfect feline, all right, to learn from the mistakes of what to do, what not to do. Cautionary tales, all right, and also inspirationary tales of healing, all right. So this is our generation of healing, all right. So that's where that ashuk comes in, and that's the beauty of Panadalu. The fact that you can catch a cold today and heal from it tomorrow is a very powerful testament of ashuk, divine love, because we have the ability to heal our stories, all right. And especially when you are doing things when you don't know better, all right. The nature has a powerful way of returning back to itself. All right. So the eye that oversees earthly things is ever watchful, and those who did not know better or best. 66. The right eye that sees spiritual things is true. 67. Then because of things that happened, the great right eye of Reye that saw truth was closed, and henceforth women walked in falsity. All right. So we lost our divine eye. All right. To cope, a lot of us had to shut down that eye of Re. All right. And we became maimed. So it's like, you know how they have the eye of justice, when the scales becomes imbalanced, and then they put the eye of falsehood over her eyes. All right. And now when you see Ma'at is balanced. All right. Mathematically correct. Her eyes are wide open. All right. So 67. Then because of the things that happened, all right, trauma, the great right eye of Reye that saw truth was closed, and henceforth women walked in falsity. 60. Unable to perceive truth, women fell from grace and saw only that which deceives them, lust and luster. 69. And so it was to be until their awakening. All right. So this is what happens to our women, and that's where our ashuk has to come from. I shook for our mothers, allow the ability to heal, because we saw our mothers in less than great lights, walking in, being slaves to whatever it is, falsity, all right, lust and luster, all right. 67. So it was to be until their awakening. 70. Not knowing Pa Nadaru, men and women worshipped Kahu, spirits, Tarafu, ghosts, specters, and nature. Some looked at the actual sun in the Pa Patat, the sky, as a deity over earth, called earth beings. 76, because they seem to provide and supply their needs. 72, Pa Nadaru were not displeased, for such is the nature of children when they fear the unknown. All right. So now we see the loss of facts, and we're giving birth. Now, Baaba's explaining where the birth of religion came from. All right. So it goes back into we lost the connection of what things meant. So all we had was the luster left. All right. So you see that we do acknowledge nature. Panadaru is the very forces of nature. That's the best way to explain it. But a lot of us lost the connection of Pa'ut in Panadaru. And we started dividing up nature, all right, and taking that divinity from outside ourselves and putting it into inanimate things, rather than seeing the inanimate things as an extension of ourselves and Pa'ut. A lot of us, we broke our divinity or our connection and it became outside ourselves, all right? Whereas before we saw it as ourselves. That's why we say, as we're healing, I am the divine, I am in the divine love as the all expanding. And the all expanding is in divine love as me, all right? I'm in the divine love of Pare, all right? And Pare is in divine love as me, all right? But a lot of us lost that connection and we started to subjugate because we were subjugated. We became subjects and slaves, and we began to subjugate ourselves in nature. And we lost the real meaning, and we were lost with the illusions of things without any real meaning behind it. And then he gave birth to so many different perspectives, all right? And now you're stuck in the lust of luster. So now you're looking at the sun. And Baba always tells you to go behind the 9-ball. So now you're in fire worship, all right? Rather than seeing the fire as an extension, all right, of what it's working for, all right? So a lot of us lost that. So let's go back. So we've seen the whole birth of religion. So 70, let's listen to this again. Not knowing, Panadaru, men and women worship Kahu, spirits, Tarafu, ghosts, specters, and nature. Some looked at the actual sun in the Patat, the sky, as the deity over earth, called earth spirits. 71, because they seem to provide and supply their needs. 72, Panadaru were not displeased, for such is the nature of children when they fear the unknown. All right? We went from knowing to unknowing. All right? 73, they created unseen deities, monsters, to depend on with no hope at all. 74, for 6,000 years, you worshipped what or who you know not. Spookism, or spirits of others dead. 75, for 6,000 years, your eyes have been closed in a sleep like Pa Nawam, the spell of sleep, a spell of ignorance. 76, as children, you have to relearn your way, the way. 77, and when no longer children, you must put aside childish things. All right, it's time we grow up, it's time we mature. All right, so it's like Panadaru looked on at us in that state, All right. Now we're being called forth to be more. All right. All right. So we've been given grace. So Panadalu, all right, the very forces of natural nature understood the nature of being disconnected. That's why the compassion, that's why we're still here, because of the compassion. All right. 78. Not having blinded you with the 6,000 year spell, Panadalu's wrathfulness is not upon you unless you ignore your true birthright as Nuwapians. 79. For you could not see these things until one was sent down to warn you. Ha mun zal nadar zahutwi. You call Amanu Amanababreye Akakpata. All right. There's various tones for the name. So you call Amanub Reacta, also Amanababreye Akta. The omniversal being at the center of existence. 80. You look on him. You could not see him. 81. You listen to him. You could not hear him. 82. You touched him. You could not feel him. 83. You asked for him. You could not feel him. 84. Yet he is never displeased with your blindness, for you were blinded to protect your Ba soul. All right. So it's like also that going back to that lust. You looked at the sun and you worshiped the illusion of the sun, but you did not really see the sun. And a lot of us experience that for various reasons. A lot of times you feel like somebody sees you, but they don't really see you. They lust you, they don't really love you. All right. They see your beauty, but they don't really see you. They hear your word, but they don't really hear you. All right. They don't feel your true essence. All right. And the reality is a lot of us feel that disconnection for various reasons. All right. Somebody wants to talk to you for your voice, but they're not really hearing you. All right. And it's a whole disconnection. So this is what happened to us in nature. All right. And that's the illusion of separation. All right. And we were stuck with lust. Yes, I see somebody unmuted.
Throwback to Malta.
Oh, Rahabat and Netere. Speaking of a beautiful voice.
It's good to actually be able to participate again, and listen to the readings. There was the things that you caught me as you're going over this topic. I wanted to ask you, what is the name of the Patah that you're reading right now?
What's the meaning?
The name of it. The name of the Patah that you're reading.
The name. It's called The Planet Earth is Woman.
Okay, so this is so wonderful too because when you were speaking about how you said like you seen Bob but we couldn't feel him, you touched him but you couldn't feel him. He's speaking but we still couldn't hear him and feel him. It actually has taken me back into what I just read 2 shadows ago of the book titled Man for Planet Risk, which is a scroll that teaches on so many subjects dealing with the metaphysical, science, extraterrestrial involvements. But on one particular page, which is page 72, where Baba is speaking about how they got us untune with nature. So now when you see your brother, you don't feel him. And you see your sister, you don't feel her. Was they took the A note and they actually moved it from the natural rhythm of nature, which was actually on the fourth octave. And the fourth octave allows our metaphysical bodies to actually be in harmony with nature and move interdimensionally between the emotional world and the third and fourth density. And when they moved it from there to the fifth octave, it created music of redundancy, which actually caused a beat to constantly become redundant in our mind, creating a void. And that void allows for fabrications to occur and actually untunes us from what we naturally will feel just by seeing one another from the inside out. Now we're trying to grasp a person from looking at them from the outside within. And I found that to be such a very interesting thing because when it comes down to things working in the universe, It computes it mathematically, leaving no space for the lies. And how this actually really just ties in with what Baba had taught and how he's taking it even further and how that ties in with the woman because all things comes from her and they don't have to agree with it, but it is the truth. You're not able to refute the truth. You can disagree with it, but you can't refute that everything does come from her. She is the most sacred being that has walked on this planet Earth. And as he said, in addition, what I heard you go over, where he was saying Potter thought it was not displeased, because in her state that she's in that state of doing things that may be very sexual or lustful, etc., because her eyes are closed. But then when they're open, you imagine what it is that she can do. When she assumes that rightful position within nature. And I just found it to be such an interesting thing too, because that means that it was such a huge agenda, right on down from extraterrestrial involvement, to actually throw the woman, the matriarch, off of her throne in order for them to actually uh, create plans and have a whole agenda that they wanted to actually get moving on this planet Earth. And they did that through also music, because everything gets vibrations and its
Right,
frequencies.
right.
And it just ties right in to what it is that you were saying. Now, I do excuse me for suddenly just appearing out of nowhere. I finally had time today to at least listen, and I had a moment to at least, voice myself. Which I'm thankful for you giving me the chance to voice myself. And I was like, it's been so long when I wanted to always be participating in it. But I really do actually appreciate you reading that because now I'm actually going to add this to more of my studies now and in my notebooks.
Yes. Well, I appreciate you, Zamal. Hearing your voice is a fresher, a breath of fresh air. So you're always welcome, and I appreciate you very much. And your
Oh,
voice came right in time. Because I know that I'm sure that you've experienced uh someone hearing the beauty of your voice, but they don't really hear you. We've all experienced different things that your very strength is makes you invisible sometimes. I'm sure you could relate to that. I think we talked about that. You know.
oh yes. With me being someone that likes to invent things, and
Mm-hmm.
as well as someone that cares, I'm very passionate about the health of our people. It could be a challenging thing when I'm speaking to someone, and instead of them hearing a message, they're hearing the tone. It's not unnatural, but to hear the message as well. And this may not happen with many people in the tribe, but it does happen with many people I work with in the public because I work in a public service job. And I'm like, well, did you hear the message? And I've had some people admit to me, I'm listening, but I'm not listening.
Right,
like,
right,
well, what does that mean? I'm listening, but I'm not listening.
right.
However, but especially when you're very passionate about a message, you want them to get that message. And so it allowed me to just step back and just start to observe more. But as again, as Baba say, like be gentle with each other because we've
Yeah,
been through so much,
right.
and let a person be who they are. He said, because people going to show you who they are. And I know it's been months, and I've had this Hereafter Doctrine on my mind, and I would see so much notifications come up on my phone, but I was like, but I want to actually get in and actually help with the involvement, and get encouraging people to be involved in our teachings. And as Baba would do when he would teach, he'll crack a joke, make you laugh, so you can actually be like, oh, okay, he's not just all like some robot walking around, calculating things. Let loose, but don't be too funny about it. Have a healthy balance.
Right, right. I mean,
Yes.
we're alive and living, and it's playing out,
Hmm.
and it's playing out in our personal lives. So and we'll be able to recognize it in each other in life, and appreciate it from the things we like and
Yes.
all the things we don't like. It's all part of nature. So nature is rounding itself
Yes.
out. So I appreciate that, Zamo.
Yes. And I would, digress. I'm gonna get back to listening to you do the reading. All right.
Okay, Tower
Thank
Hat.
you. Tell
All right. So also I want to comment on also what Zaman and Netere Noob said about the music being shifted, all right, and how that threw our natural circadian rhythm off. And now when there's shifts, when you're in touch with nature, all right, that's why Baaba's aligning us back in and giving us our tones back. Because these shifts, we have to be aligned with it for those gateways to open so that we're already aligned with it, because it's not going to be told to you, it's going to be felt. And are we connected enough with that soul by that time? You know, so it's like we have to heal past whatever is blocking us from connecting to the movements of natural nature. All right. So a lot of people come and study us, and then they just mimic us. Something you can't fake. You can't fake it. You have to be it. So we're transforming back into that. We're being given this opportunity, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity to transform back into my divine state. So I appreciate everybody, all right, and everything that we're working through. And another thing that he also said in the next year, he also said that it's an extraterrestrial agenda to untune the people. What's the purpose of untuning the people? As Baba explained, to open the gateways for them. All right. So if they can compromise the women, because if you take control of the sex, you can take control of the destiny of that race. So the ultimate racism or the ultimate speciesism is actually sexism. All right. Because once you take control of the sex, you've initially taken control of the destiny, and that sex can manifest what you want. So we have to close those portals, all right, for these different extraterrestrials that tied into us. And so we can live our own agenda again, all right, and realize that was the purpose, all right, because we have a lot of devils with black skin. So they're using our gateways to come through, all right. Let's continue. So, 79, for you could not see these things until it was sent down to warn you. Pamunzanadad Jahutwi, also called Amun Nababre Hakpata, the omniversal being at the center of existence. 80, you look on him, yet you cannot see him. 81, you listen to him, yet you cannot hear him. 82, you touched him, yet you could not feel him. 83, you asked for him, yet you could not feel him. 84, yet he is never displeased with your blindness, for you were blinded to protect your soul. 85, know that Panadaru is above all else. 86, understand, Nuwapian children, the face of a good father is stern and hard on you at times. 87, yes, my heart is ruled by compassion for you all. 88, my children walk in Pa Madatat, the words, actual facts. 89, my daughters stand up again in uprightness. 90, their feet do not wander, nor are they willful and wayward. All right, willful and wayward. All right, meaning wandering away from the way. All right, I want to do my own thing. All right, I'm doing things for the greater good. All right, as a daughter. All right, I'm going to stand in uprightness for our greater good. All right. 91, knowing that mortal man is of the rich, pure Kamat black, and of earth as the congealed blood drop of life. 92, and the rays of the sun did bake his skin black, and his spirit was first in blackness before the chaos of lights and whiteness. All right, so black gave birth to colors. All right, because from that state of blackness, all others, white was born, and from white, the nature of white is to divide. All right, if you have a prism, that white light divides. All right, that's the nature of light. Whereas black, it points back to the center again. All right, So that's our original source. We remember who we are, all right, in that blackness. 93. In the days of conception, the soul of Panadar impregnated the female receptive being. Listen to the word receptive being, all right? 94. And she brought forth her Karadu children without gender. 95. They came, male and female, as one being, as twins separated. 96. Then Jesmael came forth, who walked like a little Karad child. 97. Yet Panadar took him in hand and taught Shawal, or Shu, all right, that's the ear, Shawal, Shu, and taught Gabab or Geb, who taught Asar, and Satuk Set, who taught man to walk in the uprightness of Nadab. 98. All right. So let's go back. So we're going into, for example, Shu and Tefnut. All right. Then you have Nuts, and then you have Geb, all right, or Sabat. Because you have a masculine and a feminine part, or a push and a pull to existence. All right. So the same way that nature has masculine aspects and feminine aspects, you have duality. Duality gives birth to life in different states. All right, because that duality, that combining, and that pull and pull, that push and pull, gives birth to the next state. So now, on our physical side, we have physical manifestations of these masculine forces of nature, and we also are going to have feminine aspects. All right. So now, when you hear Geb, all right, you're thinking of solid. All right, things that solidify. So this is how powerful our ancestors were, because when we think of men, we think of solid, all right? And we think of women, we think of the atmosphere, all right? That would be nuts. That houses that solid. We think of moisture, all right? Because women, we think of moisture. That would be tough nut. So when moisture, all right, comes together with air, all right, you create an environment, pressurize. You can pressurize that moisture and it can consolidate. So you go from a water state, it starts to solidify. So from water, you get solid. So now you see Tefnut, which is moisture, all right, becoming Geb, all right? And then Geb, which is masculine. And then you have a pressurize around it again, because if it's a solid, it needs an environment in which to be, all right? So now, on that on that nature side, for lack of a better word, you see how it plays out in our interpersonal lives. All right. So now we're being taught by the very elements of nature, and you see it play out in ourselves. All right. So we have certain elements playing out in the masculine, certain elements playing out in the feminine, and how those natures come together and how they also have their uniqueness. So I want us to be mindful that we didn't separate ourselves from Panadaru. It was us. It was us. All right. So listen to that again. 97. Yet Panadaru took him in hand, talking about the mill, and taught Shawal Shu, who taught Geb. All right. Shu is the air. All right. Who taught the solid, who taught Asar, flesh and blood, and Satek. All right, who taught man to walk in uprightness of the Dhamma. 98. In those days also, after was birthed a race of beings like creatures. They came out of the loud mountains of Northlands to the east. 99. They were under a wise father and visitors to the planet from Kamahat, Pleiades, heap or cluster, and from Ashashat to assemble Arcturus. Arcturus has many Arcturus. All right, that's another star system, Arcturus. All right, and also Ashtat, Aldebaran, and others who live on under in this planet, and its Mayan Tat waters. 100 beings from Andromeda, beings from Andromeda, and Tananat, Draco. These beings became gods, deities of earth religions. All right. So you have these extraterrestrial males coming down. All right. 101. These are their Yahweh, Ja'el, Al, Anu, Enki, Enlil, Adon, Baal, Allah, Rab, Dios, Belial, Lucifer, Satan, Devil, Theos, Christ, Diablos, and Satanas. 102. For 6,000 years, people worship extraterrestrials as God or gods. All right. Notice that the extraterrestrials have been mostly male for a reason. 103. So these wild men came out of their caves and hillside and attacked and invaded. All about good men raping, killing, and claiming landmass as their own. 104. These are and were savages, clothed in animal fur and skins, horns on their head, and weapons to kill peaceful people. 105. They lived like beasts. 106. Even more wild were their overlords, who used them to provide flesh and blood persons and animals for their food. All right. So these beast-like creatures, all right, they had that same wild nature of those extraterrestrial overlords, all right, who most of them were blood. They want blood and flesh and blood. That's why so many religions have offerings, all right. And then you see how many of our cultures throughout the world has been infiltrated, all right, by different beings, all right, who they require blood and flesh. 107. In religion, it was called offerings and sacrifices to the god or gods. 108. And to offer virgin girls for their sexual pleasures. 109. Now among Paa Taraq Afaf Pa Nadaru, all right, Paa Taraq Afaf Pa Nadaru. That's the children of the Nadaru. Mother was equal to father, all right. So in our original traditions, mother and father wasn't the head of the house, so mother and father were equal, all right. They had their respective parts of nature, all right. That's the way Africans naturally did things, because that's the way nature does things, all right. So 110. And it was she who stepped down to give man equality. A grave mistake it was. 111. She was heard in those days. Her words and her speech were respected by all in those days. 112. In those days, her words were weighed, but then her tongue did not rattle in her head like a seed in a dried pod. 113. That part of Taha earth was matriarchic. All lived by matriarchy. All right. So in actuality, Bible said that we actually stepped down, all right, to give man equality. We actually stepped down to give equality. That was a mistake, all right, because before we were very respected. What a woman said was very respected. All right, let's see what happened. All right. And it was a matriarchy. All right. So 113, the part of Taha earth was matriarchic. All lived by matriarchy. 114. She having been the ruler of the 4 stars of Sabatat, Sirius, and center of this star map. 115. As Patawarat, the great one, Nasutat, Zadiokas. All right. That's the actual zodiac, the zodiac goddess. All right. Known as Taweret. All right. That hippo deity. All right. Seated in the center of Inut, Tantare, Tayan Natet, Dendera. Dendera or Dendera. All right. So that's the Egyptian star map, different ways that you might hear it being called. All right. And notice it's a circle. All right. So 116, women knew that though man could subdue her with his physical strength, he was weak in his desire for her. 117, in his weakness lay her power, and in those days it was used wisely. 118, unlike in these days where Sayatatu women offer their body freely and as such have no power, or Sayayu men buy it. All right. So the reality is men were weak for women, but it was used wisely. So it makes me think of Baabaa explained before that women have the power to inspire. Baabaa said there's no more inspiration. We lost that power of inspiration because men do what men who are they are who they are for the purpose of women. All right. So it's like you can inspire men to do great things, but that's not happening anymore. All right. In actuality, a lot of men don't trust women, don't even like women anymore. All right. And it's a use and abuse to where that inspiration isn't even there anymore. I remember Baabaa talking about that. And we have to get back to our divinity again to inspire the greatness out of men. All right. To require more. All right. Because it's a natural weakness. Because if you can't trust your mother, who can you trust? When you really think about it. All right. So, 118, unlike in these days where Sayatatu women offer their body freely and as such have no power over Sayayu men by it. 119, it was the foundation of the people. 120, the black race, Nagaru, Negroids, were good and happy. 121, yet because of its goodness, it was destined to be smitten. Not only the good vessel is worthy of the fire. 122, it is burnt, being on the best part of the planet Earth, Africa. 123, and being kind by your very nature, made you pray for the other beasts of Taha Earth. 124, the path of peace is not always the path of progress. All right. So there's a quote right there. The path of peace is not always the path of progress. 125, the women let men sit in council. 126, they had only a code of conduct and a moral tradition binding each onto the other in a symmetric web of life. 127, those who transgressed the code and tradition were deemed to be unworthy of life among the tribe of people and were banished to exile. 128, in time, women lost power by mixing with more than one man. All right. So now look at that. The women were actually, it was a female council. Then what ended up happening? Women let men sit in a council. Then what ended up happening? They end up getting pushed out the council because this is what happened next. 129, she became chattel. 130, she was then subject to men. 131, an object for the satisfaction of his lust. 132, and a servant to supply his needs. 133, he subdued her and kept her in servitude for her betrayal of man was known even among them. 134. And it was never forgotten, nor could it be forgiven. 135. If she violated her body, she was offered up in public to shame and disgrace. 136. If she birthed children by more than one man, her children were not respected, nor could hold high position or on councils. 137. And she could not live in the middle of the village. 138. Most lived on the outskirts of a town called a brothel, which is a house of prostitution. 139. And any and all men could have and use her for a small price. 140. Men could take their sons to these women to introduce them to the art of sex. 141. They were invited to all male gatherings to be sexually used. 148. The fallen women, women of red, as in night, women when the sun sets. 143. Whereas the good devoted women have much value, she married a virgin and was highly respected and protected from her crudeness and cruelty. 144. And her standing was such that she was awarded only to the most worthy man of good genes, pure blood and wealth, the good life. 145. All held her in respect. 146. For to them she was fountain of life, the keeper of family line within the Salal race. 147. The designer of its future. 148. Yet even so, they had to restrict her, for she was inclined to be willful and unheeding of her responsibility. 149. This way, the people flourished, and from generation to generation grew in power and comeliness, short and tall in stature, skin black and spotless, with thick woolly hair. 150. The pure Negroid, deity of the planet Earth, master of this universe. 151. Look at what you became over the 6,000 years. 152. That has ended. Males must restore females. 153. Females must restore themselves. 154. The woman must regain her divinity by way of wu-Nuwap. 155. O daughters of Sabatat, Sirius, you Sabatu, Enneads, forget not your ancient heritage, Sabatet, also known as Saptet or Southis, mother of the heavenly host. 156. The heritage of mystery granted unto you in the days of old. 157. When you were the rulers of men, your sons, your offspring, Mother Nature, Nadartat. 158. Was earth then afflicted with so much evil and unrest under your sway? 159. And did males then degrade themselves and strive one with another in wars and killings? 160. None. I looked on in those days. 161. The age of benevolence, matriarchal rule, now departed. 162. And little remains of the woman's former glory. All right, let's stop there for a moment. So when it talked about the way women were treated, all right, from one extreme to the other, all right, but now we think about what's normalized even, all right. So how women, when they fell from grace, so to speak, how they would be mistreated and misused. And if children were produced from that, they were produced in shame, not respected the children themselves, all right. So now when you think about the pain and the shame, many of us are coming through the portals, which we're being brought forth through, all right. And then you have the other extreme, all right, of the women upholding the genetics, all right. But then you see what was the outcome? What was the outcome of the fall of grace? Wars and killing, all right. Because what's the outcome from the children born in such circumstances where they're not respected, and it's going to lead to wars and killings, all right. So it hurt everybody. It hurt the men, the women, everybody. So listen to this. 159. And did males then degrade themselves and strive one with another in wars and killings? 169. I looked on in those days. 161. The age of benevolent matriarchal rule now departed. 162. And little remains of woman's former glory. 163. Yet remember that the fall of woman and the woe of man were brought about by the wiles and weaknesses of females who gave into males' lust. 164. My sanantats, daughters, remember your attributes and consider your estates. 165. Your physical body is a holy place out of which all deities come forth. 166. You can either be the instruments of good and inspire a good man to great heights of achievement. 167. Or be the instruments of evil men to degrade and bring the weak and evil man of no achievements. 168. The women who say, I will be no man's unless he be a real man, a provider. 169. Arasaku, a provider, is a real man and serves the purpose of Paa Taraq and wu-Nuwap. 170. For the charm and mystery that are the gifts of life to women were ordained to create a desire and longing in men. All right. So now listen to this. Men are supposed to be inspired to do great things for the mere existence of the woman, all right? But the fact that he's not, all right, is something that we need to heal within ourselves, all right? So the charms and mystery that are the gifts of life to women were ordained to create the desire and longing in men. So we have to restore that within ourselves, all right? A lot of men have a chip on the shoulder about women, all right? There's nothing to aspire to, all right? So he lives a depressed life, all right? He's not aspired to be very great because he doesn't see the greatness in the woman, all right? So the reality is until we can appreciate the women, we really cannot appreciate life itself. And you'll see the standard of humanity drop and drop and drop, all right? Till we become beasts, all right? So 171, and their purpose is to inspire men, the women I'm talking about. So 171, and their purpose is to inspire men to reach above and beyond themselves, that they may obtain and possess a treasure so precious. All right. So a woman is supposed to inspire you to strive higher. All right. But how can you strive higher to somebody that you look down on? All right. So if you look down on the woman, there's nothing to aspire to. All right. 171. A real man does not depart the bed nor sleep until his woman is well pleased. 173. This power she brings out of him by her skills and attractive beauty. 174. Therefore, O my beloved daughters of beauty, you must learn to point the foot, to sit with grace, to dance sensually. 175. You must look your very best and smell delightful. 176. When you pass by, your walk is as a swan. 177. Your voice is always soft and sweet. 178. Your eyes bright, your skin spotless. 179. You are beauty. Value yourself highly. All right. Let's stop there for a moment. So the reality is that we need to learn to care about ourselves once again. All right. Because I remember I worked with this one. I talk about this woman maybe like a few times. I bring her up in this group. And I remember there was this woman that I worked with. She was just so feminine. I thought she was really beautiful. And I saw, like, when she used to come to work, I'd be like, where's that pretty lady, you know, who works here? And I used to always tell her, like, she always looked really nice. Like, you could tell she really enjoyed her femininity. She enjoyed being a woman. And it really raised the morale, all right, because it just raised the morale of just the environment. And so it's like that's the power. And for many of us, we don't have anything to aspire to, you know? So we have to learn, because the reality is that you're dealing with somebody's nervous system, all right? So how you stimulate, all right? Are you stimulating movement in a positive way, all right? So our very voices can irritate somebody or can heal somebody, all right? The way you smell could attract somebody or off-put somebody, because there's been really nice people, very nice, but I don't want to talk to them because they smell bad. And I want to get away from them, you know. The way somebody's feeling about themselves, the way they're carrying themselves. And it's like being around somebody who really appreciates themselves can really be really healing, all right? So it's like when you see your mother. So just imagine you're seeing your mother, and you're admiring things about her. It just gives you something to strive for. A lot of us don't feel that way about our mothers. A lot of us don't feel like that about the women, all right? So, and then for her, I was just like, you know what? She makes me want to step, you know, like seeing her embody her femininity made me realize I wanted to be more in touch with my own, you know? So she even inspired me. So I'm just imagining, well, I know as a woman, how you could also inspire the masculinity in a positive way, all right? And that's something that we need to see more of, right? So this is Baabaa telling us how to do it, all right? So you must look your very best, smell delightful. 176. When you walk past, your walk is as a swan, all right? So lift your head up. Walk like you care about yourself. Walk like you know that when you go into a room that God sent you there. I heard somebody say that and I really liked it. Your voice is soft and sweet. 178. Your eyes bright, your skin spotless. All right. So work on your health. All right. That bright eyes. Work on your emotions. All right. One thing that dims us is when we have a lot on our work on your hobbies. You know, be proud, have something to look forward to. All right. That gives you that spark. You know, your skin spotless. 179. You are beauty. Value yourself highly. 180. Your teeth are always white and your nails always well kept. 181. You are a pleasure to look at, to watch, and to lay beside. 181 and 182. You give yourself to only the chosen good man in your life. 183. You are the jewel of his eyes. 184. Yet she who gives herself cheaply inspires no man to respect her. Only enjoy what comes cheaply. All right. So a lot of us struggle with, I do all this for him and he takes me for granted. And the reality is that we have to inspire more. And the other scroll that we read, you don't fall below your standard. All right. You inspire the best. All right. So if somebody's not to that level, you don't drop your level down because you just cheapen yourself, you know. So that's something we need to stop doing. And that's something that has been conditioned. When you really think about it, what has been conditioned on our women to do that? All right. To drop ourselves down because of insult. They'd be like, well, that's why you don't have a man. And a lot of women would do anything to keep a man or to get one just to say they have one, because a lot of women have been conditioned for many generations to see her value only based on her man. All right. And that's how we became slaves, to be mistreated. Because how does that give man anything to aspire to become, to achieve? All right. And then look at how we downgraded our society and our standards, our health, our lifespan, everything has downgraded because of that. Right? So 185, for it is the very nature of a man that he treasures that which is hard to obtain. 186, man values the scarce jewel, not the plentiful rocks. 187, she who comes easily to man, he regards lightly. 188, it is his nature that he values only that for which he strives and suffers. All right. Why is that? Just look at the way reproduction happens. Did you know that the woman represents the quality control of the race, where man can represent the quantity, but the woman represents the quality control? All right. So she takes the best, and from that man, she takes the best of the best. All right. So it's also filtering out. So you inspire that man to want to be the best, to qualify, to bring that life forward. All right. So you take the best of the best. All right. So so if we don't qualify, we just quantify it. All right. And we just drop the standards. All right. So there's nothing to value, and there's nothing to value becoming. All right. So the woman represents the quality control of our destiny. All right. All right. So 187. She who comes easily to man, he regards lightly. 188. It is his nature that he values only that which he strives and suffers. 189. Revel not the moon, which is more beautiful when it opens, yet eclipses at first, then reveals its beauty. All right. So that mystery. All right. So learn to, like, a lot of us, we're having problems, the two genders are having problems because we're not appreciating our various natures. All right. How a woman's turned on is not quite how a man's turned on. All right. And understand the psychology and how you can move things. All right. For the greater, or you can downgrade it. All right. So so it's like knowing our power and embodying that power again. And it's and a lot of that power is that mystery. All right. So it's that eclipse before revealing its beauty. 190. Also reveal not your womanly charms and secret attractions until the right moment. 191. Is not the moon more beautiful when shining through a cloud? 192. For then its loveliness is enhanced with mystery. 193. Women were given a shapely body and inner workings to reproduce offspring, and many of them grace, and her beauty is to inspire men, to attract them to reproduce. 194. The spirit of man is inspired and raised up by the love of his own deity, his mother, and the love of his chosen deity, his Hamatat wife. 194. The spirit of man is inspired up by the love of his own deity, his mother, and the love of his chosen deity, his Hamatat, wife. 195. There will be no greater influence in a man's life than woman's love. All right, let's stop there. I've noticed that either way. All right, whether the love or the lack thereof. All right, but the influence is still on the emphasis of love. All right, and I've noticed there's a lot of hurt, whether inspiration. A few men doing great things for the inspiration of the love of the woman, or the resentment of the woman. Either way, that inspiration, I'm noticing it is love. All right. So there will be no greater influence in a man's life than woman's love. 196. Even his own daughters and sisters. 197. A graceful woman is ever cloaked in mystery. 198. A good woman will always make Taha earth a better place for her presence, as she does her home, always clean and fresh to enter. 199. She is to be beautiful in face and bodily form. Right? So think about it. A woman is always makes a place a beautiful place, a better place. All right. How she takes care of her home. For an example, so you set the tone in your home. If you care for your home, all right, then you set the tone that others will care for your home. You can't have others wanting to take better care of your home than you do. So you set the tone to be appreciated. When everything in its place, when everything's already in its place, then when someone enters, they fall in place. All right. When things are disorganized, you're more likely to the house to be abused. All right. So when you think of yourself as the house, that's why you keep yourself in order, because you're setting the tone for all that you come in contact with. All right. So if you have the order, that already incites discipline. All right. Because someone has to, it's a certain standard. All right. That the person may automatically take their hat off, take their shoes off, without you having to say anything. All right. Because you set that tone. All right. So just think about that power of something as simple as that. All right. So a good woman will always make Taha earth a better place for her presence, as she does her home, always clean and fresh to enter. 199. She is to be beautiful in face and bodily form. 200. And no, they never age. Beauty always remains inside out and outside in. 201. The elder woman is as beautiful as the young girl. 202. The real beauty of womanhood is beneath these externals. All right. So a lot of us women have been trained to objectify ourselves because we've been objectified. So a lot of us lose value for ourselves as we get older. All right, we start comparing ourselves, and that's another way to lose your divinity in comparison. All right. So the reality is you are as beautiful in all of your stages and ages. All right. And that's how you hold on to your power, because your real womanhood is not limited to the external. All right. 203. Seek it out and develop it, for it will be much more enduring. All right. So as women, a lot of us, we live by our face. We live by our shape. So what happens when we are going by the leaves when the seasons of change? We lose our minds, right? So we have to learn to develop our womanhood from the inside out. All right. This way it can never be taken from you. All right. Because it's much more enduring. All right. And that is much more pleasant. All right. Because I've been around like this one lady I used to work out with. She was in her 70s. And I just remember like somebody like she was known to like she still had heels, for example. However she defined herself, like you could tell she still felt good about herself. And she was actually more fit than me because she did pull-ups. And we were both like doing some workout. And I just remember like she could outwork everybody. And that's coming from an inner strength. All right. That's much more enduring. So she gives me something to aspire to, you know, and a lot of our elders, they lose that spark of life. Sometimes we lose our spark as time goes on. But if you've ever met people who've held on to that spark, that's a very universal spark. All right. That makes young people attractive. It's not really their youth, it's that spark. If you can hold on to that spark, you've held on to that power. All right. So that's what we should be seeking out. All right. All right. So the real beauty of womanhood is beneath these externals. Seek it out and develop it, for it will be much more enduring. 204. Consider not the beauty of the body only. 205. For unlike the inner beauty, it can be here today and gone tomorrow. 206. Concentration on only outside appearances display a shallow spirit in the eyes of Paa Taraq. 207. Are you not more than a receptacle wherein men satisfies and dissipates their uncontrolled urges? 208. Or are you the deity of his Ahabab heart, whose tender touch can soothe the turmoil which tears his body? All right. So it's not your pretty face or nice body that's calming that turmoil. All right. It's your essence. All right. And now you developing that essence. All right. So you're more than just a receptacle to satisfy. All right. His uncontrolled urges. All right. We have to remember that and develop that again. 209. All right. So let's go back to 208. Or are you a deity of his Ahabab heart, whose tender touch can soothe the turmoil which tears his body? 209. Who invokes within him the gentle passion of affection and consideration? 210. Whose soft endearments are sufficient to strengthen him sufficiently to stifle the struggles within. 211. She who is the first of these takes the easy path. All right. So the ones of us who are more just concerned about our outer appearances, we take the easy path, right? But the second sister, 12, yet the second is 10 times her better, and a worthy wife for any man. 2:13. Nothing exalts the heart of a man as much as purity in the woman and devotion in the woman of his choice. 2:14. Nothing can stimulate his manhood as much as her modesty and reserve. 2:15. Nothing troubles his thoughts or arouses his curiosity as much as her silence. 2:16. A beautiful woman is first and foremost beautiful to herself. All right. So that concludes our scroll. All right. I love that last line. All right. Because a person whose value is built from inside is always going to be more alluring than those who are looking for outside validations. And for a woman who's not seeking the male's validation, that her real value is coming from she's valuing herself, is going to spark more of an appreciation for a man who comes across her. That's what that last line says. A beautiful woman is first and foremost beautiful to herself. All right. So, the floor is open. Anybody has anything they'd like to say about that scroll? Anything that stands out? You know, things about your own life. If you're inclined to share, feel free. All right. And how does that scroll make you feel? I'm curious. You know, as brothers and also as sisters. What do you think about that scroll?
Rahubat Muisas, it's that's that. Sorry, I was in and out of the call, so I was wondering what Paa Taraq you that you were reading.
Oh, Rahubat Master Zamantat. This scroll is Planet Earth is Woman. Paa Taraq.
Tua. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any thoughts about the scroll or inspirations? Zamantat, that's that. If you don't, it's okay.
I'll come back to you in a second on that one. Yeah, there is something. I'll come back to you.
All right. We're looking forward to it. Let's see. I'm gonna call on people. Let's see. I would love for a brother to volunteer. What do you think about this scroll? What is it inspiring inside you? Feel free to unmute. If not, I'm gonna call somebody and look everybody's names. Let me see. I want to call. Let's see. I saw Zamal Imano. I saw you when you came in. So, Zamal Imano. What do you think?
Rahba, Rahba.
Rahbat.
As I saw, they say our grandmother, our mothers, our daughters, our wives, our sisters are the sleeping God. But today also we can see that they have free choice. It's not like as before. I mean, our grandmothers, our mothers, they were not like women for today. You know, today they have free choice to free will to choose what they can do with their life. I think to before we men they used to disrespect the women, not as today. Today is women themselves who disrespect themselves, as we can see, especially in our community. I'm in Africa. We can see now they are increasing single mothers, but they don't learn the generation after they don't learn how they can preserve themselves to avoid that. They are doing the same, but nobody now is pushing them to do that. They choose themselves. So I can say in Western world is even another case. I think is more than in Africa because everything we are seeing, all the changing in the genders, they are coming from Western world and they are coming in Africa, all over the world. But they start in Western world. All these agendas. Today we can see that women they have free will to change. They can change themselves because now men they don't have really voice to change things because all the society is supporting women. The car in the justice they support women. Everybody is saying women they are right, so they can change.
Zamal, question. I want to make sure I heard you correctly. So you said in the past, the men disrespected the women, but now you said women are disrespecting themselves. Is that what you said?
I think now we can focus.
Can you repeat that? I think the camera, the connection. All right. So we'll come back to you. Can anybody else hear me?
Tua.
Okay, I think we lost the Zamal. I think that's what I heard. So hopefully he comes back and clarifies. So anybody else that like to share anything?
Tua. So I went to grab my Paa Taraq because I've read this scroll. So the first page that I opened, I've got verse 168 highlighted, and it says, "The woman who says I will be no man's unless he be a real man, a provider." So this brings me back to a conversation that I was having, where realizing that society has changed the, how can I put it, the gender roles, so to speak, in the sense that, for example, like when my grandparents came to the UK in that era, the impact that racism and everything else had on the family structure, whereby over time they made whereby, like, for example, the men weren't able to fulfill the family role by finding employment and stuff like that, and then that impacted on the family dynamics. But that was set up deliberately um to to break the family structure. And so that's a conversation that now we're still having as females, where, you know, we somewhat sometimes be saying that, oh, look at that man, he's not a provider, he's not this, he's not that, and want to have a go at them. But then when you really understand what they've done in terms, like for here in the UK, so it's generally, if a woman's on her own with a child, that she gets housed, she gets the welfare, she gets the benefits, she gets all the perks for somewhat being, a single mother. And that's sort of now encouraging young women to sort of fall back on the welfare service and stuff like that. But at the same time, in one conversation, to be sort of dogging out men and saying, they're they're not providers, they're not doing what they should be doing. But at what point, like, do we overstand that, to a degree, this is what society had set up for the destruction of the family? Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, so I was questioning myself once, and I was like, okay, so when you do have a person, or if you do have a provider, a male, and he's not able to provide on a level, do you encourage them to want to do better? Do you, how can I put it? Let me think about this. They're just not able to, the way society is set up, they're just not be able to fulfill that role as a provider. So, how do we take that into account? It's like, for us, it's like we have to take that into account to realize that, this society has been set up for that to take place, so that it breaks down the family structure. But then at the same time, how far do you push that individual, like that male, to do his best? Because I can give you an example whereby, I've been in a relationship and I felt that he could push himself. Like, you see the potential, you say, oh yeah, I see the potential that this brother has, etc., etc. And then you push them to want to do better, to want to achieve more, to want to get onto an even playing field. But then at the same time, they think that you're being too pushy
No,
somewhat.
Zamata, to read that line again. Read that exact line again, because
It's,
your answer's question, yeah, your question's answered there. Read it again.
it says, the woman who says, I will be no man's unless he be a real man, a provider.
Right. So you wouldn't have to convince a man that you're not with. So the reality, the line is right there. I will be with no man unless I'm with a real man that's a provider. And the reality is that a lot of us are settling, you know. And the reality is that if you settle down, you don't give him anything to aspire up to. So it's a lot easier to inspire somebody that you didn't already give things to. So if you're like, I want you to do better, baby, you've already got with him, you know. So a lot of these brothers really, the ISIS papers, that was a very good book. It really it was a big part of my foundation, and
Is
it's
that
like
Francis Cress Willing or something
something,
like
yeah,
that?
the ISIS
Oh,
papers.
okay.
Um, but it's like we shouldn't be building families with brothers who are not really already on that path. Uh, you know, so the answer is put right there, you know, and a lot of us, we lower the bar down and then wonder why the person doesn't want to go up, you know. So it's like the reality is that a lot of these brothers shouldn't have mates, but they have them, you
Sure.
know.
Yeah, sure, sure.
So
Yeah.
and then you know, women have to be comfortable with like you know, I'm not single, but I've been, let's say, theoretically single for a long time, you know, and I'm okay with that. You know, I'm really okay with that. Um, but you know, I'm with a Baaba's mates. But before I was Baaba's mates, I'm perfectly okay with not being with anybody. I have to be honest, you know. And it's like there's a certain standard, you know, and there's a certain standard of who I want to be. And you know, from my past being with the wrong person can really also uh, deafen down my energy, you know. So it's like if I reach my energy to a certain place, because I'm also working through my own hells, my own racism, and different things that has happened, my own traumas. And if we are busy feeling sorry for each other, you know, that's not really helping each other as well. And I'm not saying we have to judge and beat each other up, but if a person is not qualifying to go to a certain place, we need to stop, uh, you know, engaging, because there are brothers that are achieving great things, you know, and it's like a lot of times being pacified, it doesn't give a reason to aspire to be more and to do more. And I'm just thinking about all the homeless Sabians and Nuwapians and brothers that, you know, there's a lot of opportunities, and you know, a lot of us, it's an emotional downtrodden. So it's like sometimes sex makes us lazy, you know, or we feel entitled. So it's like a lot of times when you're not getting what you want, you have to do something different. So a lot of us women, it's up to us, because that question was answered, that I will be no man's unless it's a good man who's providing, you know, and whatever other things that we do. And a lot of our women, we're not being equality controlled. We're really not. And it's like you can't like, I realized that you cannot harass somebody to do the right thing. That you either have to inspire them, or it already has to be in them, and they already have to be on that path. Um, but it's like, and also like how the scroll ends, it tells us that as well, that a woman, when it comes back to us, a woman is first and foremost beautiful to herself, and that self-esteem is starting from within itself, you know. So it's like that's the inside job that we have, and then also he has his inside job, you know. So we have to allow each other to do our part. That's how I
I hear you. I hear you. So I suppose the question is then, when you understand that there's been an interjection for this to take place in terms of the destruction of the family, we still have to do as it says, the woman who says, I will be no man unless he be a real man. you know. So I suppose in my sense, when I was I can't remember I was at university, and I was reading this sociology book, and it was talking about the black family, and they were saying how, oh, the black woman, basically, I'm just breaking it down, is just a general thing of what it was saying. It was basically saying how the black woman's doesn't have a father figure around, and that the grandmother is generally the child's carer while the woman goes to work. And this was a sociology book that I was reading in university, where I thought I would be more somewhat empathetic, because I realized that there was that sort of how can I put it? What I was just explaining, there was that focus to break down the family, but it's like my empathy, or just saying, you can do it, trying to be inspiring. It didn't get me anywhere in that relationship anyway. And then whereby I can look back at it and say that I was quite an achiever, like quite a high achiever. So I think back, he might have felt somewhat what's the word that I'm looking for?
Intimidated.
Yeah, intimidated by that. Yeah.
Right.
So I suppose,
So
yeah.
you have to make yourself smaller. That's the only way that relationship is going to work. So the reality is that you could come across two different kind of people. Like, for example, when you see like Baabaa, let's use Baabaa. Baabaa does a lot of great things, and he serves as an example of what we can be. And a lot of us, instead of striving to learn or to grow or to catch up, sometimes we want to dim that person, you know. So, so especially like us women. So it's like a lot of people, and I've realized that they tend to want to dim other people, and that's not limited to gender, you know. So for us, we have to be very mindful that a lot of times, because of compassion, we'll make ourselves smaller, and then what happens? We just drop the whole quality control of the whole race, you know. So it's like for us, we have to, you're an achiever, then you shouldn't have been with that man. He's not achieving anything. So it's like if you both are already on a healing path, then you guys can come together. All right. So he's healing, you're going somewhere, he's not. Then you have to stop what you're doing, and then you're probably not going to go anywhere. If he's on a journey, you're on a journey, all right, then he's more likely to move in the same momentum, you know. But a lot of us are not requiring anybody to do anything. And it has a lot to do with a lot of us, we have been trained that um, you're a good woman because you're sacrificing, you're a good woman, or you need a man. And it's like the reality is that, he's not providing, you're already providing for yourself, you know. Um, if you didn't have children, like for me, I don't have children. I'm not on welfare, you know. There's a lot of things that you've accomplished. So let him catch up, let him surpass, you know. But it's like we have to stop dropping our standards down. Like Baabaa did, well, in a way he did. He did say he slows himself down, but not so much, you know.
Sure.
We have to, like, imagine if Baabaa did that for us, dropped ourselves down because we're acting like beasts. And if Baabaa didn't maintain something, some of us strive to that. So as the women, we have to do that because our children are watching, and they watch us grovel and be disrespected, and disrespect ourselves. And how do the children feel about themselves? So we have to think about the bigger, be compassionate for the bigger picture. It's not
Sure.
just to
Hmm.
satisfy your ego. That, you know, that's not why you say I'm going to raise a standard. That he has to be what I want for him. You're thinking about everything that's coming after that, and you're setting the tone for life itself. And our children don't even like us because look at how they see us behave. They don't even like that they exist. Like, why am I even here? That's how a lot of children feel. They don't feel grateful for life. They don't feel grateful to their mothers. They see themselves as a burden. All right. They don't have any pride in themselves. And when you go back and read the scroll, you see how the children felt about themselves, how they were treated by society, and what it resulted in wars. And then our people can't get along. And it goes back to our mothers not upholding a standard for us. So when I'm doing things, I always think about not how I'm being treated. I always think about I'm seeing these red flags, how am I going to explain that to my child? And I won't be able to, and I don't feel comfortable. So I'm like, I want to be able to look my child and speak highly of their father, of life, of the path that brought them here, and that's what we have to think about, as women.
Sure. Hmm.
Uh,
While we're here, could we also go back to verse 152?
okay.
Well, yeah, 152, where it says, uh, I'll go back to 151. Look at what you have become over 6,000 years. 152. That has ended. Ended. Males must restore females. 153. Females must restore themselves. 154. The woman must regain her divinity by way of wu-Nuwap.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So 152, that has ended. Males must restore females. Could you like give a like what you
Right.
take from that? Yeah, an example from that.
All right. So, for example, if a man's already in the path, like he can hope to restore her. But for example, let's say she's up here, like she has her mouth kuzet. You have to read mouth kuzet, it's her life again. And she has her mouth kuzet, and he doesn't have his turned on. He shuts hers off, and they both drop. Now, if he has his mouth kuzet and she's willing, he could turn hers on, and they both can come up. All right. So the man has the ability to restore the women, but a lot of men weren't because first off, they didn't really have mouth kuzet, and they just, Baba said a lot of men had the opportunity, and they would do a lot of diction and abusing the women. When they had a head start, they had the ability to turn women on. And I'm not saying no man did. Some men, I'm sure, a minority of them were able to do that. But you don't, as a woman, what's the next line? Women, females must restore themselves. So you're
Yeah.
not hopeless and saying, well, I'm waiting for a man to come save me. The man had the ability, but you also, the next line says women have the ability to also restore themselves. So it's like you don't have to, like we've been given tools, men and women. We both can apply wu-Nuwap, but a woman is not supposed to downgrade. All right. The man has the ability to pull her up, but in most cases, the woman cannot pull him up. He has to already be up there or willing, or y'all are both already on that path. I don't even recommend men to drop low because there's no guarantee she's going to be receptive. But if she is receptive, it's by the way the genetics are put together, she's more likely to respond to him than him respond to her. All right. So he's either gonna like see her and it's like I can't get up there because he's like I'm off, but she's so bright and she's inspiring. He's like, what do I have to do to be that kind of man? And he becomes it. But if you drop down, he has no reason to become that, you know? So uh where it says that has ended, males must restore females, the wise men, all right, because as being in Wu-sabat, we know the power of the female. All right. As a female and as a, as a brother who's studying, we both know. So we both know it's in our best interest for our race to restore the female. And a lot of men they don't like, I remember Baba talking about it. Baba would be teaching a class and he would hear men. And the man would turn to his wife or his woman and say, well, what Baba really meant was, and Baba said, that what they would do is that they would explain away the parts that they don't want their woman to have. And then he said, the man's cheating her like she's not sitting right there. She can't grasp the concept for herself. So a lot of men actually brought the woman down, you know, and that's not the wise thing to do. The wise man who understands the plight of our people is trying to raise the woman up, because we're not going anywhere without her cooperation, you know. So, but if you by chance you don't get that, you know, as a woman, you have the ability to raise yourself, because you can also read. You know, there's a lot of men that they got this information first, so they share it. All right. If you happen to get this information, you study it. And a lot of women, they don't study. They just get with the brother who's in the tribe and get mistreated. And I see that a lot, you know. So it's like we have to take the responsibility. Somebody has to be responsible. And he's not the only way. That's one way. All right. But you're not at the mercy of only that. As explained in my Kuzak, like that the man had the ability to turn her genetics on. First, he cleaned himself up. He was able to turn her back on. But then also she could turn herself on as well through enough cycles, applying certain things. And either way, you know, we have to do it. I don't know if that answers you.
Two answer, Martha.
Right.
Tat.
And then Bible also starts to scroll, also warning us of devils without a soul amongst us, black devils, who come amongst us to feed off about divinity. He starts off the scroll by saying that. So if you know better, you're expected to do better. And as we get wu-Nuwap, you start to replace, like at one time we didn't know better. As we get more information, we're expected to reform ourselves, we reform our lives, reform our decisions. And certain things we may want to continue doing, certain things we may not want to continue doing. All right. So a lot of the times, like people we associated with, like in one of my letters, he wrote me to be very mindful of who I associate with. He didn't say sexually, he just said in general, you know. So maybe certain people are not conducive to the journey I'm on anymore. All right. So so for us, a lot of times we overlook the facts and explain away the facts so we don't have to apply it. And then we say, well, I'm just being compassionate because I know he can do it. But you see, he's not doing it, you know. And so that means that we wouldn't be applying wu-sabat or wu-Nuwap, you know. And Nuwap means to replace. So as you know better, you're expected to do better. All right. And if he knows better, he's expected to do better, and he doesn't want to do better. He made his decision. Now it's time for you to make your decision. As is true for every one of us. You know, there's so many distractions that comes in our own gender, in the opposite gender, in a habit, in a place. I mean, you know, as I'm looking at the scroll, it's a lot of reflection. You know, a lot of times we run from a responsibility in so many ways. When I'm looking at the reflection, let me see. All right. 33. Most don't know why they so easily accept spookism, beliefs, lies over truth and facts, blind faith, and seeing fate. All right. So a lot of us, and that happens in many ways, you know, that we have the facts in front of us and we still get misled by lies. And the reality is that the more we get in touch with our soul, we'll be able to spot deception whichever way it comes, because there's many of us, because of mixing, that various natures happen and sometimes in the same person. And all of us are fighting genetic wars. And a lot of us, sometimes, why do we give in to what we know is not right, you know, or it's a lie? Or why do we get fooled so easily? Why can't we apply it? And that's something that we all have to soul search within ourselves for whatever it is we're struggling with. Because you know, being honest with myself, there's certain things that might be easy for me. There's certain things I might struggle with. And a lot of it has to do with what is in my genetics, you know, that I have to overcome, you know. And a lot of the times I feel like we find ways to have mental gymnastics of not having to change things within ourselves or decisions that we're making. And sometimes it has nothing to do with the other person, you know, as well. And I've had to like accept that as well about myself. And it made certain decisions easier for me after I realized that it's really about myself, you know, because as things happen to him, like things happen to the black man, things didn't just happen to the black man, it happened to the black woman as well, you know. So it's like, well, it's not the decisions that we make is not just based on him. It's based on also the traumas that we've endured. And are we going to heal past it? Or are we going to have 6 ether explanations to 9 ether experiences that we block ourselves from, you know, for whatever it is. Like I could explain a way of why I'm going to just continue eating this food that's not good for me, you know. And I might have a whole reasoning in my mind. But regardless of what is that's taking me forward or not, is it going to hinder me, you know? So I think that this scroll makes us also look in ourselves as well. Does anybody else have anything they like to say about this scroll of things that you might be introspecting on? I know that like this scroll does make us introspect, you know. If you feel comfortable sharing it or a question, if you want to generalize it, I'll probably call on somebody. Actually, Zamal, Kamem still, I'd like to call on you. All right, we'll come back to you. All right, how about Kamem Nanechere? What do you feel about the scroll?
Rob has about that. Did you say Kamim Nanechere?
Did I say that? My apologies. You know what? I'm sick of
It's all right.
Zamal.
Zika Boom Satar. It's all right. Zika Boom Satar. I really enjoyed this scroll a lot. I really enjoyed this scroll. I have read it twice. I have read this, excuse me, I got cut off. My battery's down low on my headset while I'm driving. But I have read this scroll twice. This is my 3rd time hearing it, and I learned something, you know, new each and every time. I found that it's actually very important where the overseers are teaching, and Baabaa is actually relaying the teachings, how the reason why our feminine are how they are to this day is because she has become blinded by who she is. And that's important for many people around the world to actually notice so they can stop trying to judge her, you know, outside of her real natural nature as being a goddess, you know, of all races. Because many people are judging about gold diggers, they're judging about their clothes, they're judging about things that don't really define who they are, and they haven't been taught to remember who they are, you know, their place within nature. You know, I really like it a lot because I know me as a masculine, I'm more than okay with protecting and building as long as I can do some science and, you know, I can invent some things, you know, instead of running around where people practice what they call free sex is I find it to be an abomination. I really do, because I've never partaken in that because I don't see how you can actually value the very people that you came from. Many parts of the scroll that I find, like personally, that stands out to me is how the feminine needs to be retuned. She needs to be retuned because she has been untuned from her natural nature, from her natural status as deity, from her natural position as mother, you know, that she has forgotten, that is dormant within her. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't certain, but yes. And the other parts of this scrolls as well, I'm just thinking of how it ties into many other ones, like the Math Gazette, Elixir of Life, the Master Secret. And I remember I posed a question one time to some other student teacher that they was not able to answer it, but that's okay because I didn't answer the question with trying to insult their intellect. I answered it. I asked the question with much curiosity, and one of the things I actually asked was, since the feminine has XX chromosomes, which is 8 telomeres, and what you call Paprika, or Africa, has the 8 monoatomic elements, then and she naturally vibrates which is in harmony with nature on the 4th octave. I said, does that mean that Africa itself also vibrates in harmony, and she's always in harmony with it? But then I got the answer to my question when I read another part of that was actually titled, I think it was called The Spiritual You. No, Sex Force, Spirit Force. It was that one. And when I read it, as Baba was actually saying, once she actually partakes in sleeping with a Caucasian male, a 6th etheric being, then she actually is no longer in tune with Mother Nature, a Fafreika. She loses that, as well as her lineage connection with being the record keeper, as well as our connection with the universe. That's a huge price to pay, for a temporary moment in time.
Zamal, I wanted to also add that to the front of this book, because Baba explains also in this book the Caucasus nature, the original African nature, and now through the mixing that a lot of us with black skin has the Caucasus nature. So a lot of us also
Yes.
became untuned. In this book, Baba explains that some of us got untuned by sleeping with black men who had the Caucasus nature.
Yeah, that was something I had just learned today after
Right.
even reading it and then listening to you read it. That was something that actually was like, okay, I just learned something new. They got untuned by sleeping with these black males, or there was a beast in black skin. That's what he said, correct?
Black skin. Yeah, black skin.
Yes. And so I was like, well, yeah, that would also make sense too. But she just leaves it more how she's such a spiritual being. She's a spiritual being. She's an internal being, and it's such a sacred act. But that what planet Earth is woman, it does actually encourage different males that want to step up that they should step up if they want to be anything to the feminine, and that for other feminines to also step up and also respect themselves if they value themselves. Like, don't just go dating somebody because of good looks and being a smooth talker. They got to have some moral structure, to themselves, something that they actually have anchored in how they're walking in life and a purpose that is actually beneficial to her nature and healthy to her well-being, as well as any future children that may come into play. I mean, I really, really enjoyed this scroll. I really did. I could just say more and more on it, but I do want to leave some room for you to actually comment as well, Zamaltek.
I appreciate that. Let's take some other comments, and then you could comment again, all right, Simone? Because I like to hear your other take on it as well. So let's see.
All right.
Zamal Kosi.
Yeah, wrap it back.
Oh, good. Still, I see. Okay.
Yeah, tour.
All right.
Zikaun. Yeah, going back to verse 2 up to verse, where are we now? Just to verse 13. Basically, it looks like everything was going well. We were living in 90 for, blah, 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 etc. Until this hybrid being came. And they were created with, if you look at Genesis 1:26 and Genesis 3:15, it just states that he put enmity in them. So they just brought this, if you want to call it, a bad vibe on the planet. And we've inherited it because in Mesopotamia, I think it was there that we got intercepted and we got raped and etc., etc. And we had now their DNA in our blood. So we took on some of their characteristics. Because if you look at us now, we kill, we lie, we, murder, we don't respect nature so much. When I say we, I'm just generalizing now. So, this scroll really, really says it all. And, going back to the sacred feminine, some of the women have maybe do not understand because of what men want to see, and maybe they are acting out what they might think men want to see. And don't get me wrong, we like to see them, but you know what I mean? It's like, how far is this gonna go before it ends really, really bad? But getting back to the scroll again, it's a beautiful scroll. I've had it for about 6 months and I haven't read it. So I'm really glad that you took it on to read today. So Tower Tat for that Zumalta. Nakukurahum, I yield.
Tower Tat. It's an honor to read these scrolls together, so I'm happy that we got to read it for you for the first time together. And some scrolls I've read for the first time here. And, getting everybody's input. And, I know that it's having us question ourselves, introspect as it should. And then we could see where we need to reform, because we've all been untuned in some way, So I've been untuned in some way, So it's a lot of deep introspection of what I need to reform within myself for the fate of our future, all right? Not just for myself, but for the fate of what's to come, all right? Is it going to be something really bad, all right? Or are we going to lift the standards, all right? So yes, a lot of things happen to us, from the infiltrations in our families to welfare to whatever the case is. But it's like we have to do something about it now. And it's like we each are being called to do something. And, hopefully that we can take that time to reform ourselves. Each one has to reform themselves. And, there's things that, I feel like we're all being called to do better. And, this has happened to us generationally for thousands of years, generation upon generation in multiple forms. So having compassion for yourself and each other, and the scroll also highlights that as we go against nature, that nature doesn't have a wrath against us, because Paa Taraq comprehends. Let's see, how did it state it? All right, let me see. How our eyes, like, we're doing a lot of things because we lost connection with our divine eye, the eye of Ray. There's a disconnect. And how we're being called forth again to make those reconnections. All right. So we have to do something different to get a different outcome. And now we having a chance to work our story out. So let me see. I'm going to quote it. I'd like to quote that. Okay. Okay, so there we go. I think 26 starts to 26. 26. And because of this wickedness that was done, there are amongst you those who are children of the beast, who are a different kind of Saye man. 27. There are human beings and those being humans. All right. So listen to that. There are actual human beings and those that are just being human. So they're not really human. All right. And you could tell by what they're inclined to do. And they're beasts amongst us who look like us. They're amongst us, and they're actually untuning us, right? So 28, they are cursed and punished with the disease of leprosy, and have mixed their DNA with all other Salalu races on the planet Earth, and put evil in all Salalu races in their genes. Even black devils and they will act according to their inner nature, regardless of what they look like on the outside. All right. So we have to start respecting nature for what it is. All right. And we see the fruits. Let me see. That's not what I was trying to read, but let's see. So let's fast forward down. So 34. Many have no ba soul, only ka spirit, as kakasu. All right. So not every Nagaru has a soul. Baba's making it very clear. All right. 35. They must be reborn, born again, renewed, or they will fade with the beast. So the woman's mitochondrial DNA brings forth children with suffering because they are frail in soul. Their sexual mate rules them. They lost their divinity as mother deity. Males are conceived in the Raham womb of females. She brings him forth to life. So when Panadaru raised Nagaru Negroids up above all other Salalu races, from Bahamu, the behemoth, that's the beast man, he could not speak. He was mute and he could only howl. Where I'm trying to get where it was. About the compassion, about how, oh, there we go. Many unknowingly. They slept, they must clean. All right, there we go. So they slept, talking about the sisters. Number 60, I'm on verse 60. Many unknowingly gave up this divine right by mixing their body fluids with children of the beast in black skin. All right, beast in black skin. All right, so 61. They slept and exchanged their fluids, and in doing so lost their virginity and divinity. They become used, going from man to man, male to male, and even some with man's kind. All right. They must be clean inside out, outside in order to regain their divinity and powers. All right. The eye that oversees earthly things is ever watchful and knows who did not know better or best. The right eye that sees spiritual things is true, because of things that happened, the great right eye of Ray, that saw truth, was closed, and henceforth women walked in falsity. All right. So a lot of our women, the truth is right in front of our faces, and we just can't see because we have been untuned and our spiritual eyes now closed, and we're perpetuating falsehood. All right. Unable to perceive truth, women fell from grace and only saw which deceives them, which is less than lustful. And so it was to be until their awakening. All right. It's time now to awake from that slumber. All right. Not knowing Panadaru, men and women worship Ka'au, spirits and specters. Some looked at the actual sun, Paa Taraq, the sky, as a deity over earth. All right. That's again breaking our divinity. All right. So you're worshiping the lust of luster because you've taken that divinity outside yourself instead of connecting to the sun as us, as the sun. All right. I'm in divine love of the all expanding. And all expanding is one. Okay, I am the one, I am one as the all expanding, and the all expanding is one as me. All right. So it's that oneness. When we start to subjugate, we subjugate ourselves, and we took that divinity and it's somewhere out there outside of ourselves rather than in the collective that we're all part of. All right. So we gave up our divinity. All right. And then we fell under the spell of luster. All right. So 72, this is where the shook comes from. Panadaru were not displeased, for in such nature of children, when they fear the unknown, they create unseen deities, the monsters, and depend on with no hope. All right. So Panadaru were not displeased because Panadaru, or the forces of natural nature, that's why we're still here to work it out. That because of what has happened to us, that's the compassion of comprehending what has happened to us and giving us the tools to work ourselves out of it. And that's why the helping hand is at the end of our own arm. Are we going to use it? Are we going to dissipate? All right. So as children, we have to relearn our way. All right. So we didn't know better before, and we are being given the tools to know better now. So when you know, it's time to act like we know. All right. So I just wanted to say that of what has happened. Now, what is expected of us to do? And can we do it? And will we do it? All right. That's to be determined in each and every one of us. All right. Let's see. I want to call on Azama Imana. You were talking before, but what happened was I think I didn't hear you.
Rahba,
Rahaba.
yeah, happened that I got a call and Telegram cut off. Okay,
Question.
so
You had said something. Jamal, you had said something. You had. I think
eh,
you had said that the men before the men disrespected the women, but now you see the women are disrespecting themselves. Is that what you said?
is that I was on that? Yes, is that
Okay.
I was saying that today, women they have free choice, free will to do what they want. They have more freedom than before, but they feel they are doing what they want, and we can see their orientation. It's like they are obeying all the agendas of these people. They are the ones who are obeying themselves. They choose to obey this, and they are working. They are collaborate with this evil agenda. So we can do nothing. Day of today, I was saying I'm African, and in Africa we can see that they are increasing single mothers, and you can see the generation before has done that. The following generation is following to do the same mistake. We can say nothing. In Western world, there's nothing to do because men they can't even say nothing. They can't even give advice to women. They are running away because they know more you approach, more you will have problem. They can create more problem to men. So they are running away. You can't advise them because the justice is with women. Society is with women.
I
In
understand.
everything, women, yeah. So it's impossible to advise our sisters.
Yeah, I
It's
want to say
difficult.
it's impossible, Jamal. I don't
Yeah.
mean to cut you just for time constraints. Um,
I think
the
you
fact.
you have
Mhm.
you have big job. You have a great job to do with our sisters. And I'd like to hear the opinion of Baba, our master teacher. Even if he's in the prison, he can give his opinion because I think there must be update according what he said before and today. Because today things change. Hmm? Is that? I'd like to hear the opinion. I think women they have more ability to advise other women than men. Women we can't even be near, be closer. It's difficult. We burn ourselves because they will create us problem. We have been trying with our sisters. It's difficult. Mhm. Yes, is that I want to say. Mhm.
I understand, Jamal. So, um, what I was saying is that I definitely feel you on that. That's why I like the tone of the women. It is time for our voices to be heard because, like you said, in some cases, um, it may be easier to accept a certain message from a woman, you know. And for so long, the woman's voice has been oppressed. So I remember Baba talking about it, something about like when the pendulum swings on one side uh, to the extreme, a lot of times it has to swing to the other extreme before it balances itself out. So the other extreme is actually the balance. It doesn't just go to its, you know, its resting place. It is balance. It goes to the other extreme, you know. So like you started the statement by saying that men were abusing women, but now women are abusing themselves. And the reality is that after being infected for so long, it has to play out in some way, you know? So it's like this is what has happened to her, and this is the result, and this is what's playing out. And this is the retuning that's needed and the healing that's needed. And you can't really shame people, you know, you have to educate them. And it goes back to what Zaman Neche Reye Nub was saying, is that when you understand the condition, all right, it allows us to start to remedy it rather than just judge it. Because a lot of us are very hurt. We're very disappointed in our mothers. There's a big mother wound on this planet. And it's making us carry this chip on our shoulder. And it's making us untune ourselves even more and tune each other. And a lot of us are judging the men, judging the women, but we're all being called to do something different. So this is the time of reformation. Things has happened to women for so long. Even like Baabaa Yaanun, he said that in the personage of Malachi York, he said so that himself that on other planets, Yaanun actually personifies as a woman. But the abuse on this planet is so great that he couldn't have come as a woman because, first off, no one would have listened. So he had to come as a man. But now it's time for, he has made the space, you know, and I can deliver this message. And a lot of times where a woman gives a message to another woman, it can be healing. And our voices have been silenced for so long. So I do call us who know better, whether you're male or female, it is time to step up. It's time to exercise what we know is right, because it is time for us to stimulate and inspire the best out of each other, because we've been down for so long. And this has been done, and it has infiltrated our genetics. And that's why it's so hard for to receive maybe in a country, because I was reading something about Fela Kuti's mother. She was a female activist, and she was actually the first woman in Nigeria to drive a car. And because of colonialism and the infiltration and the abuse to women in that country, she was actually assassinated. She was killed by soldiers, and that's pretty much this same lifetime, you know. So with me saying that, is there's so much abuses that sometimes it come across like men again suppressing women, you know, and judging women, and for suffering that we suffered at, you know, males' hands, you know, for various reasons. So that's where that compassion goes on into, and saying that it's hopeless. It's not hopeless. It's like we all play our part. And Baba, you know, he has touched many women and sparked many women. So it's coming from that place of compassion instead of judgment and anger. A lot of us, we don't realize we have it. And also letting people stories play out, letting their trauma play out, and letting people have the ability to correct themselves. And that's why I like to read the scrolls here rather than us debating, because when a person's reading the scroll, they have a chance to work out their own mind, give people a chance to work out their own problems. And sometimes they don't do it the way you want them to do it, but let them go through their process, you know, and we all are processing something. So it's our time, you know, and I give us credit that some of us are going to heal. Yes, Kosi.
Okay.
Imana. Yes, Imana. So I don't know if you're satisfied with my response, but, you know.
Yeah, I'm satisfied, but I'd like to know, because I have just 6 months since I discovered Wu-sabat, the culture of Wu-sabat, and this community of Nuwapian. I'd like to know our goddess in Wu-sabat, our Nuwapians goddess, how are they in our community? How they behave, how they are thinking. They are thinking the way they're supposed to do it, because I never meet anyone here where I'm living in Germany. I don't have a community of Nuwapians or Wu-sabat. I never see. But I'd like to know, for example, you who have been growing up in Wu-sabat, in Nuwapians, I think before they were Ansaru, Ansarula, I don't know. All this community, how they were our goddess inside, how they are. I think they were different of those we are seeing today. These females we see today, how are they? Because I don't know really. Because I see where I am in Africa, I'm going there, or where I am here in Germany. I think it's difficult with to have hope with our sisters. I mean our sister, black sisters. I know. Is that I want to say? It's difficult to have hope.
So you're
I
asking,
don't.
like, you're
I
asking.
don't. Yeah. I don't.
So
I want to know our Nwapians goddess. How are they? Those who are there since the beginning, since 70s, since when Baba started to teach
okay,
us, to give us our. Are they respecting our ancient
okay.
way of life?
I'm gonna
Yeah.
summarize your question, Zamal. Just
Mm.
so your question is that it's hard for you to conceptualize from where you are, from what you see. You don't see an example. So you're asking for the people who grew up or who's having
Yeah.
this type of information. How did it look
If
like?
they are if they are feeling that they are goddess, because they must feel that they have power, they must feel that they are
Okay. So I want to ask
they
you.
are more, they are
I
more
want,
than
I want to
men.
ask
Is
you.
that a,
Yeah, I want to
Mhm.
ask you, Jamal. What I'm saying is that we're all struggling. It's a lot of domestic violence. It's a lot of abuse.
Wow.
Do you see our nation built? No. So what I'm saying is that uh there's a lot of homeless Nuwapians and single mothers, you know. So the reality
Is
is,
impossible.
but the point that I'm making about that is that it's a work in progress, no matter where it is, because we've been traumatized all over the planet. We've been infiltrated.
Yeah.
We've been infiltrated, and especially in the West, we have a lot of Caucasian blood in us. On top of that, you know,
Yeah.
so
Hmm.
it's a lot that we're working through, and that's where the compassion comes from. That's why there's so many scrolls, because that's as much healing that's needed. There's thousands and thousands of scrolls, a lot of them repeating the same thing, because that's how much layers of the spell is on our people. And if you think about it, it's going to take a generations. Like Baba said that we won't even conceptualize uh, what a matriarch really is, because we've been in a patriarchy for so long. So just because we read a scroll, we saw something in 2 decades, we didn't see our mothers living that. In actuality, our fathers
Yeah.
living that. We're striving towards that. We're creating it right now, and this is where we are the healers for. We're rewriting our records now, so we are ushering in the next 24,000 years of everything that has happened. The sun cycle only started in 2000. We're only 25 years into it, and we still have the lingering moon cycle. So it's like it's something we're healing through. And a lot of times when healing is taking place, it's not like, oh, I read this, I'm all better. Like a lot of times it's a process, and sometimes it's a lifelong journey. So I'm saying all that to say, don't get discouraged, but our
Yes.
story is just playing out. And a lot of us,
Yes.
sometimes we look at things and we think the grass is green on the other side, because maybe in Germany or Africa, you might not see, like, wow, you had all this information for so long. It must be better for you. And then maybe over here, we might say, oh, the grass is green over there. But in actuality, we all have to be taking that, or like the brothers might be looking at the sisters like, oh, you're a sister, you have the head start, and the sisters looking at the brothers, well, you failed us, and this and that. In actuality, we're all overcoming something in various ways. There was an untuning on this planet that happened to all of us. So um so the reality is that either we're all right or we're not right at all, and we've all been untuned in some shape or form. And our stories are playing out and the healing is happening. And that's the inner job for each one of us. So there's things that I'm still struggling
Yeah.
with.
We
I'm sure
didn't make,
there's things
we
that, yeah.
mhm.
Hmm.
We didn't make it in 2003, 2013, 2023. Do you think the next time we will make it?
That's a good question. We have
Because
2000.
in this way we are going like this, it will be difficult. We have to start by the beginning. How are you going to educate our children? How are you going to educate our daughters? Because me, I have a daughter, and I'm worried the way I must do things. What
I
they are
see.
teaching them at school, all this agenda, everything is against us,
Right.
is against our community, is against our teachings. I'd like to have more Tamari everywhere. I don't know if Tamari still is working in Chicago. Is it in Chicago? Where is it? Is in Georgia?
Okay. So with that being stated, some of us is going to make it, not everybody, you know, and that's the whole point. It's decision time now, you know. So we have what, 2033, we have 2043. All right. Um, but the reality is that we see the global picture, and we could say, well, there's a lot against us, but reality, there's a lot happening for us as well. As the sun cycle is coming in, there's conscious gases, and a lot of us are facing the things we don't like about ourselves, so that we can exercise it, so we can be called to the higher parts of ourselves. So it's like burning out those distractions. And a lot of times, like, you have to reveal in order to heal, you know. So we're seeing the things that we're working through, but there's also so much in our favor. As we're shifting into the sun cycle, we have certain genetics that have been dormant that's being turned back on, you know. So it's good for um to pull out the best of us, like the best inside of us, and also the best of us, and also to weed out the ones who just can't. Like some of us, our genetics just linger too far behind, as it says inside the Mafkuzet. And we're given so many tools to help assist us to make that journey. And some of us will make it, some of us will not. But we are Baba explained that if one man and one woman makes it, then the entire race made it, you know. So that's why we see it's not about personal success, it's about a collective success. So that's why it's in our best interest to help each other, you know. And
Exactly.
yeah, and that's what we're doing, you
Exactly.
know. And as we're helping each other, you know, maybe your genetics go further than me, you know. I'm not saying I'm, you know, maybe I'll make it, you know. But it's like I'm doing my best. I'm healing through what I need to heal through. And if we all do that, it's commendable, because as we're actually living it, we see, well, in some ways it's not easy. It's a lot of things that we're growing past. And some of us will make it. And when we see a sister, we see a brother that's growing, you see the nature that some people want to go tear them down. Some people want to assist. And you see what side of the spectrum they're falling on. And some people are going to assist you, some people are going to hinder you. And you have to
Yeah.
determine yourself. Are you going to be part of the helpers, or are you going to be part of the hinderers? And that's a decision we're making each day. So to take control of what you can. And as we realize that, for me, I've realized, because at one time I just thought it was hopeless myself. And then as I just focused on myself, and I started to attract different kind of people. And then actually I had people that helped me, and I was able to accomplish things. So a lot of times you'll be surprised of where you vibrate. You'll vibrate into a new reality, even yourself. You'll notice that as well. So we all just took that helping hand and applied it to ourselves. We'll be surprised of the environment we're creating or what we're allowing into our environment, because sometimes we could be so in a low vibration that we don't qualify to be in a higher vibration. So everything looks bleak. But as you work on yourself, you'll realize that you're being given eyes to see and interface with uh, helping hands as well. And you'll see, wow, there's a lot of powerful brothers and sisters that I didn't know before, right here in Germany, right here in Africa, you know. So that's happening too, if we all
Yeah.
focus on healing.
Something else is that I can see that since I start to learn,
Mhm.
and what I'm learning here in Wu-sabat, and when I'm talking about what I'm learning, I'm trying to share. There are other races, they catch it very fast than black people. Black people, they don't even feel concerned that by that, even if the message came for them. I mean, the message for Baabaa Yaanun came for them, but I can see in 10 people I contact, most of them, they are other races. They are Caucasians, they are Murabu, they are Caucasus, but no one is in this about according to Africans. I don't know why. So, what is the problem with the black people? Why they don't catch easily? The message is for them.
Right. Well, there's a spell that's the spell of ignorance, because the thing is that it's a lot of reinforce us to put our divinities outside. So if you look at that, we've been doing that for a long time. We've been empowering others. So a lot of times we've been running from ourselves for so long. And then also, give people the just because you put the food out there, they may not eat it right then, but they like uh I'm gonna use me as an example. I wasn't necessarily receptive to everything the first time I heard it. Some things I have to see play out. I'm like, oh, that's what he's talking about. So it's like letting people's stories play out. Sometimes certain things might click automatically. Sometimes you may have resistance, and you'll have to work that out. Work that out in your mind and your DNA. You know, so there's a reformation happening, and then sometimes like people may be attracted not because they're interested in changing, but it's like sheer curiosity. Or, we've been trained to be, others been feeding off of us for so long. So for them, we have sustained others at the cost of ourselves. And we've run away from ourselves and given away ourselves. So that's why there's a propensity a lot of times for us to uh, we may be resistant at first, but it's like give people a moment to like process something new, because you're challenging somebody's whole reality, you know. And a lot of times, people, they might be afraid they're going to hell, or they've been worshiping another image for so long, you know. To consider that they may have divinity, or to listen to somebody like Baba said, if he had been a Caucasian man, more blacks would have listened to him. That's what he said, because we have this spell of self-hate on us as well, and that's what we're healing from as well. Even him being like, okay, he could have came as a black man, but being a woman was too much. And Baba explains that wu-Nuwap is actually a feminine doctrine, but still need a man to interface, because that self-hate is very deep, and we're healing past that. But that self-hate of us rejecting, if he had been Caucasian. A lot of the time, scientists are now confirming a lot what he said. So he said maybe when we see a Caucasian saying something that confirms what he said, we'll accept it then. And that's been the case for some people. It's like, oh, okay, he wasn't crazy after all. Because that spell has so many layers, you know. So, you know, like understanding that we didn't get like this overnight. So we're not healing. It's a process. And
It's a process. Yes, it's a
yeah,
process. Mm.
and it's happening. The process is going on.
Mm. Yeah. Thank you very much, Tautan Zamata.
I appreciate you, Zamal.
Mm.
Anybody else that would like to say anything before we wrap up for today? All right.
Rahbat.
Oh yes, Zamal Tat.
Yeah, so wow, there's so much in this Paa Taraq. And it's interesting because I just finished reading the procession change. So there's a lot of alignment, and that's the beauty of Baba Scrolls. It's a continuation and the repetition, so you get to understand things differently. And I mean, yeah, a lot has been said, but I think what we keep forgetting as the Nagaro is that everything that has been done to us as a people was planned. It didn't happen in random. There was a plan, there was a strategy in place, which is why, in my opinion, I'll say that our overseers and ancestors had to send us, Baabaa Yaanun, because there isn't a human being on this earth who could help us, save us, so to say. And after everything that has been said, we need to be gentle with ourselves, with each other, regardless of the sex, blaming each other and pointing out. We know what's wrong with us because we know us better than anyone. And it's wonderful to have these platforms where we can come together, read together, and learn from each other. And for me, the things that is coming out the most, and I have to constantly go back to that so that I stay tuned, is remembering that Baba is in prison and we're out here. And because there's so much love, Ashuk, divine love for all of us, because he knows us better than we know ourselves. So I think if we come across any challenges, we just have to remember where Baba is. And I was thinking about it earlier today, and I was like, it's crazy because we think Baba is in prison, but he's not. We are. And we're out here thinking that we are free, and we're not. So, and that's something that we need to remember, that he's not in prison. He has all the knowledge, and we are. And it's a mental prison. And I remember years ago when Mandela was released from prison, he went to Oprah show and she was asking him why he was not angry. I don't know if it was there or maybe I read it somewhere. And then he said he was put in prison, but then he couldn't imprison himself in his own mind, because that's worse than someone putting you in prison. So that is why he walked out of prison without hating anybody, because if he were to do that, he was imprisoning himself. And most of us, that's what we do. We keep imprisoning ourselves based on the systems that were designed to imprison us. So we are the guards. So like a prison has been built, we have been thrown into that prison, and we are also the guards of the prison ourselves, and we don't even realize that. So for me, I'm extremely grateful for this knowledge, for this work. And what I love about it, which sometimes it's so hard, is that Wu-sabat is a living doctrine. As Baba keeps saying, the helping hand that you're looking for is at the end of your own arm. And it is extremely difficult because we have been brought up in a society where we have been raised that someone is coming to save us. So we are sitting here waiting to be saved. And then we're also looking to judge who is right, who is wrong, who is living the true Wu-sabat culture, who is not living the Wu-sabat culture. And the work requires you to go within. So instead of asking who is, so the question should be, am I living the Wu-sabat culture? Because you cannot, the best way to teach our people is by living it. So they see the changes in you and they go like, wow, Linky, why did you shave your hair? Why did you change your diet? We heard that now you're vegetarian. Ha 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 ha. Are you being serious? You know, so you start having those conversations. And then the people around you, they notice, because this is deep. I mean, if you understand that Wu-sabat is a DNA doctrine, like it's DNA, you are literally turning somebody inside out. So it's not something that you can just say to a person and then they're like, oh yeah, I get it. They may pretend that they do, but actually they don't. So which is why when you leave it, then they get to see it and you're consistent with it, and then they will be interested, or at least for me, that has been my experience. So I don't go out of my way trying to explain it, because it doesn't work. It's like I'm preaching, and I'm not a preacher. I've never been interested in that. So what I try to do is to just share, you know, a video, lend my friend a scroll, and then pick up a conversation here and there, and then let it go. But I'm not forcing it on anyone. So, and for me, that works for me. And I know that the people that I am currently talking to about Wu-sabat, they genuinely understand it. They want to learn more about it. So we are having meaningful conversations about that versus me wanting to speak to a whole lot of people, or even use that church mentality and be sort of like frustrated and desperate, wanting to save that Messiah syndrome that most people have of wanting to save, you know, somebody. So if you want to save our people, then be Wu-sabat, be wu-Nuwap. And then slowly, I think people will notice. And then they will start asking questions. And then you can answer them. And because they are seeing the changes in you, and then again, it's not for everyone. Then that's another thing that I have to keep reminding myself, that actually it's not for everyone. But at the same time, on the OSM vision, Siken likes to say that not all flowers are going to bloom at once. Exactly. And again, we forget, because we want a quick fix. And if you desperately want people to change, is that for you or for them? Whose need is that? So that's something that we also need to ask ourselves. But yeah, like I said, there's a lot to unpack with these scrolls. And yeah, thank you for reading and yeah, being here, and to Baba for all his beautiful work and words and inspiration. And to a certain degree, I get it, because after we read The Man of Many Faces, I'm like, I'm not doing enough. There's that sense of like, I'm not doing enough. And then I have to say, it's okay. You know, you're not Baba. You're doing your best with where you are, with the information that we have and the knowledge that we have. It's okay. You know, so again, being gentle with ourselves and understanding who we are, where we are, and learning together and working on ourselves. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
Oh,
Taukumisa.
that was a lot of wisdom. I appreciate that. You know, like everybody's flowers doesn't bloom at the same time, and uh, you know, it reminds me of there was this girl when I was younger. She made fun of a hairstyle. She was teasing me about my hair, you know, and then maybe 10 years later, she wore the same hairstyle, you know. So I'm using it as an example, as a metaphor for people get it when they get it, you know. And I've had experiences like that with Baba. Like Baba might have given me some advice, and I didn't follow everything to a dot and a T because it didn't make sense to me, and I didn't get what he was saying. So then later on, I was like, oh, you know, might even be like maybe 10 years later or however long later it is. And then I can appreciate it. And it's not like Baba, I never felt like he judged me or he just gently said something. He didn't badger me. Like, did you do I say it? Did you, I never experienced that, you know. And, you know, he gently mentioned a couple things. I didn't get it. Then he just changed the subject. We talk about something else. And then later on, I was like, oh, and I realized that, you know, I've experienced the same thing with my mom or whatever it is. So it's like allowing people to go through their maturity, their story. You know, everybody's working through different unseen things. We all have unseen battles, you know, and giving people the grace because uh, there's unseen changes that's often happening with people, and it's happening on a deep genetic level, and it's happening fiber by fiber, and before you know it, you know they're in a whole different path. So, so that question that Nikki asked, that when we share something, are you sharing it for yourself, or are you really sharing it for that person? And it allows you to, you know, kind of step back a little bit. Um, so I think that that's uh, a very good approach, you know. Uh, so anybody else has anything else they'd like to say about the skull, then we could wrap up. All right. So I like to just say I appreciate each and everyone that's doing your part. You know, we read about the different things that happened to our people, where we started, all right, the infiltrations that happened and what many of us are working through. All right. So if we all just take that time to introspect, the helping hand is at the end of each and everyone's arm, and we could share information, um, step back and, you know, let everybody go through their process and
So
take
multi.
everything. Yes.
I would just like to say I really appreciate you taking time to read this Paa Taraq over again. You know, I actually was able to learn something new. So Tabata moving it there.
Yeah, so is I. I learn something new every time. That's why I love the group platforms because I get inspired in different ways, even depending on who's in the presence. Because the person's sometimes a person doesn't say anything, but just their mere presence sometimes may spark a thought as I'm reading the scroll. So it's very healing, and I appreciate each and every one of us who took time out your day to come together and I encourage us all to do that inner work that no one sees. And then we'll all see it and feel it. So, Tawakum, my God.
Tawakum and Newton, I wanted to say you look so pretty. I'm like your outfit, your hair, you look beautiful.
Tawakum. I got this from Ghana.
I love it. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is a beautiful dress.
I appreciate it. It's from Togo. I bought it in Ghana, but it's from Togo. I got it from people from Togo. I love this dress too. I appreciate that. Thank you for noticing. So, Tawakum Moiswa, let's keep healing and, leaving the planet in a better place than we found it, as we're in a better place after come across this information. Let's apply it. So I shook my sword and Wadu.
Shook.
Shook. Wadu.
Wadu.